welcome to Prospect Podcast. I'm Coach Schumann. I'm here with Coach D, and he is back from the maternity ward.
Woo!
Yes, with a newborn. It's exciting for him. Exciting. Now he's got 2 to keep him busy. Good
That's
stuff.
true.
That's
It's
good.
the older one that's keeping really busy.
Yeah. Well, they'll all keep you busy soon enough. And we have Georgia Miller here again. She's a sports psychologist. She works with athletes on mental performance and helping them to really improve their mental side of the game. And so we're excited to have her back, which we're hoping we can have her back at least every once in a while to talk some more stuff and stay updated on some of the latest things there. But if you could just a brief background, just so people have that background, and then we'll dive right back in there, Georgia.
Yes. Hello again, everybody. So glad to be back. I do have to say your intro, it makes me want to run a marathon. It gets me hyped up. It's so good. So yes, I am a mental performance coach, sports psychology coach, whatever term you prefer. I work a lot on one-on-one with athletes. So I'm working with all sports, all ages, but sweet spot is 14 through 22. So high school and college. I'm working with sport parents and coaches on just implementing sports psych techniques into their routine. So 90% of my work is one-on-one, but I also do some team seminars and talks as well.
Very cool. And I tell you, last time we talked, we dived into a lot of different topics. What are some of the things that you're like right now? Some of the most pressing things that you are seeing and dealing with within this space. You know, some recent things that you have been addressing from that standpoint and improving people's mental approach to the game.
Yeah, something the last couple of weeks that I've been doing with a lot of athletes, I call it just exposing their truth versus the truth. And so what I mean by that is athletes can come up with these very irrational, strict beliefs in their mind. Right? Like, oh, if I make a mistake, then I am just an awful player. Or if coach yells at me, then I completely disappointed them. I let down the entire team. Mm-hmm. And I just, I have them write out, like, what do you believe about this? What are you saying is true? But then, like, let's look at the actual truth. Let's look at, like, facts of the matter. It's that coach yelled because he's probably just very invested. Doesn't necessarily mean they're mad at you. And it's probably just to help focus you a little bit.
Right.
Right. So I'm challenging them a lot on those that's been happening in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that was weird.
Right?
Yeah, did we all just get moved around?
Yeah, I don't see Derek anymore.
Heck.
Hey.
That's
you never know what these. You never know what this.
I'll go with this view.
There we go.
I think that's like a custom view we created.
Oh, well, remember the one? That's where the one, because I see that little bar or whatever that is in the middle of that. Remember, I don't know. We had like 2 or 3 episodes ago. Like that wasn't. You weren't happy about that one.
Right. So we went with this.
Yeah, that's very good.
Which I like better, right?
It does.
But
I'm telling you,
it just went crazy 2 seconds ago. So I think man, technology. It never stays the same. That's one good thing about it, or bad thing. I don't know. It's really interesting that you bring that up, because I would argue that is the major symptom of the modern young athlete. Is that the difficulty, because everything is taught to be positive, like all the time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to best put into words, but I'm just thinking about like stuff I see. They struggle with, a lot of the kids struggle with intensity directed towards them. I'm not even going to say criticism, because sometimes it is criticism. Sometimes it's just correction. Right. Like, hey, think about this. Sometimes it's criticism. sometimes it's motivational. So I would say that's why I use the word intensity. When a bar is raised towards them, like I mean, I get excited, or Derek gets excited with a player. They read that as conflict. That's the best way I can put it. They don't. You could be saying, "Great job, and they might read that as conflict. I don't know any other way to put it, but it's because they're not around it enough, and they either are getting yelled at home, okay, and that is construed as constantly negative, which is how it is sometimes with parents, or they don't get yelled at enough at all. It's like there's no in between.
There's no middle ground.
There's no middle ground. There's not enough like back and forth on stuff. And I think that that's the only way I'm curious your thoughts, because I think of it as like when someone is intense with them, sometimes they're negative, and that's, sometimes they're positive, sometimes it's criticism, sometimes it's a correction. They have a hard time reading intensity as being something other than conflict. I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, and typically what I'm breaking down with athletes is the tone of voice that's being used. A lot of the times that's the scariest part, right? Coach's tone of voice or parents' tone of voice. And so what I tell them is, well, like, imagine if coaches just whisper everything. Like, it would not have the same effect if they're talking in this little whisper baby voice, right? Like, they have to get your attention somehow. But it really is, it comes to perspective, right? We've all heard that saying. Maybe the younger athletes who are listening haven't, which is good to talk about them. When a coach stops yelling at you, that's when you should be worried.
Correct.
That's literally one of those things. That line in itself is part of, like, day one intro to the new group, all the younger guys coming, and even the older guys now, having been at the same place for, a couple of years now, understand, like, hey man, like, you want Coach D coaching you like that. And if he's not talking to you, get nervous, because now it's just like a different world. Like, you want that intensity on you. You want him constantly, like, because they take it as, oh, why is he all over me? Or he's criticizing me. And that's whether it's good, bad, indifferent when it comes to it. But that's one of those lines that it's like you start your meeting in the beginning of the season with that, right? So that they understand, okay, like, there's never going to be where he's not going to talk to me, right? Like, every time something happens, like, that's part of coaching, I think. And go ahead, continue, Judge. That's like literally coaching 101. Start with that and have them understanding that, hey, I'm going to coach you on a like play-by-play basis. And it's going to feel like a lot. It's going to feel like it's overkill, or he's all over me. And it's, because that's how it is, right?
He cares and he wants you to be better, right? And
Correct.
like, you're pushing them, right? And if athletes had that perspective of it, they probably wouldn't be overthinking it as much too. And what I tell athletes is that filter through the tone of voice, find the words, find the feedback, try to find one focus from it to keep you moving forward.
Absolutely.
But I think and a lot of it too is coach yelling at just you, or is he yelling at everybody? I mean, you guys are all in it together. There's a lot of power behind you.
Right. Yeah. But I also think to flip that, coaches that constantly yell and use the same high tone of voice over and over and over and over, now the impact isn't the same. It's not right? It's not as effective. Like, when you have that coach that's, a cool, calm collective, which now I think is more so than kind of the way we were coached, right? I feel like that militant, disciplinary, my way or the highway, yeller type of was so much more common, when we were playing, or back, even a couple years, like, going back a couple years, that now when that monotone, kind of low level coach raises his voice, now the impact is even more, right? Like, oh damn, like, now we really need to plug in, because like, he's upset, or this matters enough for him to raise his voice.
Yes.
You know?
The trick with athletes is you need to make sure, well, what I'm working with them on is staying focused on what you want to do. Because a lot of times they get yelled at and they're like, oh, okay, I can't make any more mistakes because coach is mad.
Not the point.
You don't want coach to do that. So then they get in this avoidant mode. But again, we have to look at the purpose. No, why is coach yelling? To get your attention, to focus you, to move you forward on something better. Okay, I need to stay focused on making the play, on my hustle, not avoiding mistakes.
Right.
So they kind of get the wrong message there.
And I think a big part of it is the wording coaches use. So you could be intense, but you got to be intentional with your wording. So if you're I mean, this, at least this is why, like even when I get really upset, I'm highly intentional. So it might think that they may view it like, wow, but it's really every word is really like, there's something I'm trying to get from it. Okay. And because I know that there's going to be a response based off of what you're saying. Now, I think coaches have to be intentional with it in the sense that if they are utilizing their words that what you said, force athletes to think, I don't want to make a mistake, I think you run into an issue there. I think you run into an issue because the last thing you want athletes to do is to think don't. Like, do not. Like, if they think don't, when you tell them to don't do something, okay, like you know, I don't know, whatever it is, right?
Block this way.
That's exactly like they make you tell them not to make that mistake. They're just going to avoid that completely again. And I think that if they do make a mistake and you say, hey, you know, I use basketball, that's a bad shot, that's not a good shot, you got to tell them what a better shot is. You got to tell them what a better shot is, because the only thing they hear otherwise is don't shoot. That's what they hear.
Exactly.
They don't hear bad shot. They hear coach doesn't want me to shoot. Right. So what you got to do is, hey, bad shot. You know, the guy was right on you and you shot, you know, you tried to shoot a crazy shot, get into space, or if it's not a great look, you might have to pass it. Okay, and get back and try to get a little bit more space so you can get a better shot or something like that, or get closer, whatever it is. Instruction is a key component to that, and fast instruction is a key component to it. Like, because basketball is a sport where it's hard to, like, you know, unless you sub them out and you talk to them, which a lot of coaches do. I think that's sometimes a good move, even if the kid doesn't like it or athlete doesn't like it. So you could talk to them for a second or two.
But that's temperamental too, I feel like. Right.
Yeah. Agreed. You took me out because I missed. Right.
Like, look, and we're notorious for doing it with football, right? Because, you know, a guy gets beat, right? Okay, right away, get him off the field, right? Now, in his mind, every bit of me coming off the field relates right back to that play that happened, right? Like that's what it is. So to me, it's, hey, you got to leave them in there, right? Otherwise, that literally right there, because just the overall appearance of him coming off in front of everybody.
Handle that. Like, I think that's one way. I think that's one way, is to leave him in there. It depends on what the issue is.
And if it's repeated,
if it's an issue that could be repeated over and over again without instruction, then you got to talk to them briefly and send them right back out. I need to talk to you quickly. Get this changed. Go back out.
Absolutely.
If it's an
which
issue
for football allows that, because you have that pause between plays, whereas hoops, basketball, you're rocking and going.
You could sub a guy for a minute or two, but I think that I think you're right. Like, I think that I think there's two ways to handle it, right? It depends on what the issue is. If the issue is he drops a pass, okay, keep him in there. Okay, right. More than likely he'll probably catch it. You say, hey, listen, you got to extend your hands, keep him in there. If the issue is, let's say you're an offensive lineman and he has an egregious penalty, like I don't know, he's pass blocking, his hands are way outside, you're trying to communicate to him, you can't communicate it to him, and it could be repeated over and over again, you might just have to briefly sub him out, or when he comes off the field, if he does come off the field, then that's where you would engage with him on it when they switch possessions or something. But if he's a player that's on the field, like in high school, a lot of times they play both ways, good player, you may not get a chance. You may want to you might want to grab him at that time and be like, dude, you're playing with your hands way outside. You know, if you keep doing that, it's just gonna be over and over. You got to get your hands inside, because sometimes in football, when you yell across the field, they don't hear you.
Yeah.
And you're losing your mind because the thing happens 2 times in a row.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen with offsides a lot, actually, in football. Like, a kid goes offsides, everyone yells at him, literally yells at him on the team, like the team, or they're annoyed with him, and he feels everyone annoyed with him. And then he gets back in there 2 or 3 plays later, he jumps off sides again. And you're just like, oh my God. Like, you may not have to take him out, but you may just want to bring him, walk him to you, be like, yo, chill out, just listen for whatever your instructions are. Because I think that there are times like a drop ball is a great example of you just leave them in, to me. Like, because they're probably going to fix that on their own. They already know they dropped it.
They know what they did wrong.
Absolutely.
Wrong.
You screaming catch the ball doesn't help.
It does not help them, right?
You're better off,
right. Everybody in the stadium saw them drop the ball, and they know, oh, he should have caught that. Like, you don't need to double down on what the kid is already beating himself up about, right? Like, to me, that's just like, it's 101. But the actual instruction part of it, right, still, especially on game day, when you want that positive flow to stay and you want them to be in that positive mindset, even the correction or the whatever that needs to be done in the most positive of way. Hey man, don't worry about it. We're good. Let's move on. Next play. Like, you got this. I've seen you do this at that. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever that is, to me, hammering a guy or crushing a guy or something like that. Now, you can be fired up about it, but to me, like, you need to, it has to stay positive, just because they're always in that, like, that's where you want them in that state.
You have to move on to the next play, right?
Yeah. Right. And especially in football, where there's that pause from play to play.
There's time to think.
Like, exactly.
Yeah.
Basketball, for the most part, like, hey, I throw the ball to the other team, like, oh hell, I got to get back on defense. Like, you're almost not even thinking about it until, like, like the fast flow of it changes things.
Yeah.
How do you see? Is that something that you see, Georgia, when you're talking from athlete to athlete, sport to sport, that dwelling on the negativity, from football, where there is that pause and that time to reflect and think more, or baseball, where you're literally thinking the entire game and it's constant, like, mental thing of oh, I struck out. Like, you could hold on to that forever, because you may be sitting on the bench until you have to go out and do something else. Like, do you see that sport to sport, the differentiation?
Yeah. So, like, we got football, tennis, volleyball, golf, baseball, softball. Those are big ones. And so when I'm working with athletes on, there's a precious, like, 10 to 15 seconds in between plays, right? That you can use that time to move yourself forward or to sit and dwell. And a lot of athletes, I see them get caught up in this why trap. They're asking themselves, why did I do that? Why did that happen? In the middle of the game, you don't need to be asking why. It doesn't matter why you did that. What matters is moving on to the next play. So we're replacing the why question with what now? Because the answer to what now, that always gives you something productive, that always moves you forward. We can think about the why after the game and in film sessions, but middle of the game, not a time to question and overthink and analyze everything that just went wrong.
Channel it in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Channel everything in the right direction. That's a big, and that's also knowing your athletes too, for coaches, is like, can this problem, if I channel him towards anger, does that help him? If I channel him towards just to relax, is that the way he should be? Like, knowing your athletes, so because each person is different. Like, something goes wrong and you're a defensive player, and you're able to channel him with a little, okay, you know what, take it out on the other team, they probably will do that. As an offensive player, you may have to be careful with that because that could be a penalty, right? So, but yeah, it's important to know. Maybe it's just relax. Like, there's a lot of different ways that can be handled, but knowing the player, I think, is a big deal. But that's a great point. What do you got to do now? What's your next play? How could you channel this into something positive so it doesn't become, my biggest thing is you can never have one play become two plays become three plays become four, right? And when that happens, or one bad series becomes two bad series. I mean, in football, one bad series becomes two bad series become three. That's the game. I mean, pretty much.
Yeah.
At high school, at least. At high school, maybe college a little different, but high school definitely. And you see, listen, you watch NFL, like when you watch playoff games in the NFL,
series by series,
these guys will struggle for 4 possessions.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the Chicago, a good game example is Chicago Bears versus the Packers this weekend.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Chicago looked horrendous in the first half. I thought the Packers were going to blow them out.
Yeah.
And a great athlete, like the quarterback and the coach for Chicago stayed focused, but the quarterback was struggling. He was struggling on the sidelines, shaking his head. Everybody goes through different processes. So some people could look like Caleb Williams looked like his body language was really bad, dude. But they fixed it at halftime, and he got in there, and he was unbelievable. So every person is different, right? So I'm curious, you find like that to be like, I'm sure there are obviously core tenements, right, that you have to be able to do no matter what your personality is. But so many of these kids have different personalities now. Like, that's one of the other things I think is amazing. I've seen kids that are like, I hate bad body language. I'm sure so does Derek.
It's brutal.
It's brutal for me. My old school mindset drives me beyond bonkers. Yep. I'm sure as a player, I had bad body language from times. I'm sure everybody probably has. But when I see it over and over, it drives me nuts. But one of the things that I've learned is that, like, with kids like today, is that it takes time to correct them on bad body language. They
don't even know they're doing it a lot of the time, right? Like nobody has ever made them even aware of it, right? That, hey, every time I say something to you, your palms go up. Or,
right. So the big thing is I agree. I don't cut you off, but I just want to finish my thought on this.
No. Yeah. Go ahead.
But my thought is that you got to correct that over time, right? That takes time.
Yes.
But what you can do immediately, and they are pretty good at this, amazingly, that you could take they could have bad body language 1 minute and you could corral them the next minute, because they're so used to this like weird culture part of it.
Right.
Where they are I do think they're easier to, like, I don't want to say they're schizophrenic as athletes, but a lot of kids are more schizophrenic as athletes now, where they could go like through this thing where you could kind of bring them right back. Like there are steady eddies, and obviously you always enjoy
very rare.
But it's very rare. But you can, like, one of the things that I've started to notice in the like definitely with younger kids, but a lot of the older kids too, like they'll come down, be super down one series, and then if you kind of can change their mindset, they can actually just bounce right back. Like they bounce right back pretty quick. And I think in the old days, you were basically like coaches really just kind of went with more stable individuals for the most part, unless the guy was just a freak athlete. And now you have even the stable individuals have the kids that you would say, oh, that kid's a great kid, he does everything right. They have bad body language at times, and you have to be able to kind of get them in the right direction as you're teaching them over time, that you've got to improve that, because the higher level you go, that's going to be more of a problem. If you're a high school athlete and you have bad body language, you don't fix it in college, they have less likelihood to, be patient with it. They don't have a reason to be patient with it. And in the NFL's different, because if they make it to the NFL, I'm not going to say I see a lot of guys with bad body language in the NFL. some of these guys all have played their whole life and have been able to like turn it around real quick. And like, it doesn't mean exactly what you want it to mean. Not that you don't want good body language, but
I'm just able to overcome that.
Yeah, the pro guys, you got to kind of put into a different bucket because whatever their minds, they all go through mental struggles, but their minds are definitely better than more of the athletes that you get in college and high school, where they either bucket it, like they bucket this, like this is just, they're an idiot and they bucket it and then they're back. Like, you know, until it becomes too much for an NFL team. I mean, Anthony Brown, until he became too much.
Yeah, but those are guys that like might actually have like something off chemically for credit. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but
we're literally talking about that. Plus,
they're
I feel
so
like,
high level, you know what I mean?
And Georgia, you can attest to this because the age group that you work with, you know what I mean? Like, that's where, I mean, there's just so much other shit going on, right? So, and they've never seen or been made aware of it, right? And to Dave, to kind of go along with, pros are pros because most of them have been through it and now they understand it. They have some of these tools to whatever. Rarely will you get a guy. I mean, just think about the NFL draft process in itself. I mean, if they're not looking at a psych test, I mean, they got to take a Wonderlic test. I mean, there's so much stuff done on who they are, what they are, how they react to. I mean, you're talking about NFL GMs that go back and scouting departments that go back all the way and interview their high school coaches, their middle school coaches, right? So because they're getting, you know, you're investing millions and millions of dollars. So the pros are in their own world.
Yes, agree.
The high school athlete, the middle school athlete of like their biggest gripe or their biggest issues are, my coaches are coaching me this way, my parents are telling me this, like, and then I'm thinking this, and I have no idea how to I don't even know what we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So I think just the making them aware of these certain things, right? Like giving them skills of just, hey, you're feeling like this because of this, or hey, circle, like here's 100 words that are feelings. Tell me what some of these that you think you felt, right? And okay, you felt that. Why did you feel that? Well, my coach raised his voice. Okay, well, here's the, you know what I mean? Just to make them aware of these skills, which we just kind of go through this process of, hey, I got, you know, these are my athletes. These are this, like, you have no idea where they're at. And it could be you could have the same kids on the same team that some really understand their self-awareness and are very like, hey, I'm emotional right now. This is why I'm sweating more. My heart is racing. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and this is racing to reset. Like they have a process.
Right? Absolutely. Right. And those are your
probably your better
athletes.
And that's what separates the pros, right? You see them react, but then they have a process to let it go and move on.
Right. Or you see them not react, right?
Yes. They all know how to let go of mistakes. I mean, you look at TV always shows the quarterbacks, right? They just threw a pick. They're like, but then they're okay on the sideline looking at film. All right. And then they're like on to the next play.
Or you see the guy that comes off, right? A quarterback that throws the pick, gets extremely emotional, loses his mind, spikes his what, like we've seen Tom Brady spike that tablet and then the next series go out and throw. So everybody has their own process. And I think just making guys aware that your process might be different than this guy's process.
Helping them find that process, right? And you're saying like with the body language, right? This usually helps athletes fix it right away. When they know or realize how that's impacting their emotions, they're usually very quick to change it. Because you see, let's say if we're playing football and you see some guy on the field just absolutely losing his mind, that automatically gives you more confidence because you're like, oh, he's in his head. I got this.
Exactly.
Right? Like, especially with like golf or tennis, right? Like see kids throwing their rackets. They're like, oh, I got this. Like, it just, you're handing free confidence over to your opponent. Like knock that off. You're like literally just putting them on a pedestal. If you can just figure out how to stay like poker face, just not show your emotions. You don't have to be happy and smiling all the time. That's unrealistic.
And with the impact of how all of these guys want to be perceived a certain way or looked at a certain way, right? With their social media, or God forbid, one of these videos gets out of one of these guys and it's posted about them losing their mind or them looking a certain way. Like, watch that behavior change. Watch how fast that changes, right? I mean, we talk about record, rank, publish all the time when it comes to just listing things or putting numbers on so it's visual for kids to see it, like say with weight room numbers or, you know, 40 times or whatever. Everybody's trying to fit in. And if you're known as the kid that every time something bad goes on, like you're a baby about it, or you cry about it, or you're overly emotional because you don't know how to handle that, like now your teammates, the older you get, start to see that. And they start to now, okay, well, I'm not picking this kid on our team, right? Because this is what's going to happen. Or, hey, every time coach gives him some constructive criticism, like, or coaches him up, like, we lose him for the rest of the game. Or,
Right.
you know, it starts to snowball where I think now if they're aware of that, that changes,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
I think that that's a very important thing is that they develop their own process. I think players that are able to stay poker face is really good. There are some. I think it also has to be their personality. Like,
Yeah, can you teach that, Dave? Do you think, like, is that something that's innate? Or
I think it's innate. I think some of that's innate. I agree. I say that, and that's why I say that, because if a kid is not, like, I'm just thinking of like quarterbacks I've had. Like, I've had a lot of quarterbacks that I coached that were really good, and they were all different. Like, I had guys that I could talk to and they didn't freaking react at all. I had guys that were absolute maniacs, and they were all these guys were good. So I would try to coach.
Yeah.
I would try to coach.
personalities, man. It's wild.
Well, the guys that were wild, I would try to get them to be talk. They used that to their advantage, but I would try to get them to just come down a little bit more if they could. Guys that were completely poker face, which would work to their advantage in a lot of ways. There would be times where I'll be like, I mean, aren't you excited at all?
Yeah,
like,
you gotta like shake them and be like, buddy, do you have a pulse right now? Yeah, come on, dude.
Like, there is a time when you do need to get a little bit hyped if you're going to carry the ball and get 1 yard. Like, you can't just be calm.
Yeah,
you need some sort of adrenaline going.
You got to get a little adrenaline. You can't be like comatose,
Right.
you know? So, and they all develop. I think a lot of them develop there is certain things that are innate, right? So you got to coach around whatever their innate
personality.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part for coaching. And that's the hardest part probably for sports psychologists, is to understand that person's personality and they're good, they're bad, and they're ugly, because everybody has it. You know, like a stone-faced guy is good for these reasons, is negative for these reasons, right? A overly excitable person is good for these reasons. There are things when he doesn't need to be excitable. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want, if you throw a pick, we don't want you to be like 5 picks in a row because you're overly excitable, you know? So there are certain positions that require different characteristics in different sports, right? So
well, that
baseball comes to my mind as that, like, for the most part, you're probably very calm. Okay. The only person on the baseball team, to me, that seems to be incredibly intense, they may not be like yelling, but most intense guys are the relief pitchers. And if you watch major leagues, right? Like, most baseball players, even when they're excited, they're calm. The only time they really get pumped up, like, they hit a triple, they're excited. They get up, they're really excited, right?
They steal a base.
And then they,
routine. They go right back to calm. Relief pitchers come in, big music. Everything is designed to pump them up, because basically they got to get a few outs and win the game. And that's the most pressure.
Right there. Yes.
Most pressure.
That's the point right there, Dave, is they need to be high level for a short amount of time, right? It's like a cheetah, right? They can hit top speed, but then what happens for them for the rest of the day? You know what I mean? Like, you're maximizing, squeezing everything out in a really small window.
Great point.
And then, okay, now I'm good. Like, I did my job, got my 3 outs, and look, either the game's over, or, I mean, they may, you know what I mean? Like, high intensity, short bursts where
a kicker's the opposite.
Kicker's the opposite. Like, it's the long game. And talk about mental, like, hey, you know, offense has the ball. We're getting into field goal range. Like, I'm going to have to kick this game-winning kick with no time left and all this. Like, you have all of that time to sit there and think about it. And look, you can do as many practice kicks on the sideline and all that other kind of shit that you can. But that zen of, like,
you have to, like, getting back. And
A kicker's
Golf,
they
same
literally are a guy chipping onto the green. That's what they are. And when you're chipping from 30 yards out, 40 yards out, if you get too excited, you hit it over you're hitting it over literally hitting it over the green, right? Or
but
you're
even
hitting
with that, I think it's situational, right?
Right.
Like, is this the 18th hole at Augusta, or is this just like, hey man, we got to force
Routine
them on a
extra.
Saturday to get away from my wife so we can drink beers?
Well, that you can hit over you can hit
You know what I'm saying? But I think that I think, to circle back, I think that's kind of like where we're at, right? With that, the age level that Georgia works with mostly is just making these guys aware and going back to see, is this a kid or a guy or an athlete that because how many times have we seen really good practice kids? And then all of a sudden a game comes and it's like, buddy, what's
right.
where are you?
That's all mental.
That's a great point. I would love Georgia to talk about that, because how do you the kid's good. If you see him in practice, he looks really good. And then in the game, they struggle with some components of their game, right? Now, there are kids that are natural gamers, but I do believe that if a kid, the hardest thing for a coach to coach is that person. Okay.
Oh, a light switch kid.
The kid who is in practice looks great, and then for some reason it's not translating on the field, and it really doesn't have to do with ability. It has to do with something in their mind.
Yes.
That's where I hired Georgia.
Cover that. Talk about that.
Yeah. So most athletes that come to me, that's the
issue.
That's the telling issue, that it's mental, because you didn't lose any skills. Obviously you're playing great in practice, but it's not transferring in the game. So they're approaching practice and games differently. In practice, they're like, whatever, I can make mistakes, no pressure, I got this, I'm just out there having fun. Games, it's, I can't make mistakes, I have to play perfect, it's game day. So they go in with all these different expectations and this different pressure that they're putting on themselves. So naturally, if you're thinking that way, if you're thinking in these two completely different mindsets, don't you think you're going to have different results? Your actions are going to be different, right? So really breaking down their expectations, their focus, how they handle pressure. I mean, all that is so mental.
Is that something you can prepare them for?
Yes. Well, and that's why it's so important that coaches are doing game-like practices, scrimmages. I mean, towards the end of practices, coaches should always be doing some sort of competition drill, a scrimmage.
Something to put them in that, hey, spotlight. Look, it's why we have the field goal kicker line up and kick a kick at the end with everybody standing around him screaming, right? We're trying to get as close to a game-like situation as possible. And I think it's the answer I was looking for, because it's 100%. What I think coaches struggle with is finding time to do that, or how to do that right now. Guys like Dave and I that have been in it for a while, we can create that, but it's still never going to be the perfect 100%. This is exactly how it's going to be when you get into a game like situation, but just making them aware of it, or getting them as close to it as possible.
Close to it as possible, right? And the golf is a really good example here, and in tennis too, right? In golf and tennis, you can't have your coach right next to you, but come meets and tournaments, their coach is away, so it's just them. So they have to have a way of letting go of mistakes and kind of coaching themselves. And if in all their practices, if they're looking over at coach after every mistake, well, then they're probably going to completely tank in their matches and tournaments, because they don't know how to do that for themselves. They don't know how to move on for themselves. So in golf, we're working on that a whole lot, but the scrimmages, the pressure drills, I'm talking to coaches a lot. Make sure you're trying to simulate some sort of pressure for them, and explain why. Okay, this is why we're doing this. So come game time, when you see this, you're a little bit more prepared for it.
Great point. I think, like what Derek said, that's why you do these drills. And I think in practice, you're right. You are a little limited. I think this is where the athlete has to seek some of this stuff out on their own.
Yes.
And this is where the culture of training is a negative. Okay.
Right.
So when they go to my son's a quarterback, goes to a quarterback coach, or kid goes to is a receiver and he goes to a receiver coach, and they do these drills and they look phenomenal, and they catch every ball,
everyone,
every ball, right? It could be anything, right? I mean, it could be, it's like you said, it could be a golfer, right? He's with his golf coach, and you're like, this guy looks phenomenal. I don't got to do anything with them. And what the trainer misses is the pressure point, right?
Yes.
So they forget to put it, and it's really not their job, I guess, as the trainer, because they're really a skills coach. That's what trainers to me are, just a skills coach. They're not. They're a lot.
Where they separate themselves, Dave, is they put both. If they hit both of those things.
Yes, if they can hit both, they're a coach. But really,
now you're like, buddy, I'll pay you a little extra, right?
Yes, because you put them in tougher situations, and then the good thing about it is when you are with them 1-on-1 or 5-on-1 or whatever it is, you could explain it after they make a mistake or whatever. But you got to put them in those situations. I think that's part of when I see like I'm in this rabbit hole with like.
Yeah, your algorithm's screwed right now, buddy. Like
with football trainers and basketball trainers, and I got all these great guys, and guys who hate them, by the way, too. So I get I get all these guys in my algorithm. It's crazy. It's just wasting my life probably. But but what is very interesting about it is like my favorite guy is I don't know why he's coming in my algorithm all the time. This guy who was like a really good basketball coach, and now I don't know if he's still a coach or a trainer. I don't know what he is, but he's very old school into certain things, and he's trying to basically like tell athletes that it's like you got to compete. Like his whole thing is like you got to go out and play like 5v5 pickup and know what it feels like when the other team scores 11 and you're off and you got to sit now for a half hour because your team lost. And you got to know what it's like when someone doesn't want to pick you up because you ain't good enough. Like you need to know what those things feel like, right? Because a lot of the, he calls them cone babies. Like you put the cones out and they look great. And there's a balance to it too, because too many games doesn't give them a chance to correct some of their mistakes too, right? So I think what Derek says is really important is that training, but then put them in a pressure situation. Like, the things that we used to do as kids, like I used to play football by myself because of there wasn't any kids around my age a lot of times. And
same thing.
And I would throw, I kid you not, people in the neighborhood must have thought I was a whack job. I would throw the ball to myself. I tiptoe down the sidelines. I'd be like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I jump over. I love the fall because I would take the leaves and I would leap over the top. I love the snow even more because I would make a pile. I'd leap over the top. I had my bed before I'd go over at night. People were like, oh, how did you get a pretty good jumping ability? My bed, I would pick all the pillows. I would stack them and I would see if I could leap over the top. Like when I was young, Herschel Walker, but that was a big thing in like the 80s and when I was a kid. And these guys would jump over the top.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I didn't have anybody to train me. I would jump in my bedroom over the top all the time. I mean, I would do it, I would say hundreds of times. I probably used it in my career 5 times. 5. I would say 5 times. In 8th grade, twice. I leaped over the top twice. Because the coach is like, we need to get in. This team's better than us. I'm like, I could just jump over the top.
Yeah.
They're like, what? I'm like, I practice it all the time. And then I literally did the Herschel Walker, leap over the top, get in there. Right. But that's what it is. They lose the art of those simulations of a game, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 catch. You drop. There's many times you drop it when you're practicing on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where there's the least amount of pressure, right? And you're just kind of out there doing your own thing. You look around, nobody's looking at you. I mean, maybe now everybody's having everything videoed and filmed and put on social media because it's just the world we're living in. But like, you know what I mean? Like you could do that if you wanted to. It's like, you know what I mean? Like the whole AI and all of this, like the just social media, even parents, right? I mean, you didn't have film of your games unless you got it from the coach, or it was just sometimes your shit wasn't even filmed, or even you didn't even know it. Like if you made up a story, you could have made it, had 5 touchdowns. You may have not even got off the bench, but nobody knew because there was no proof to the pudding, right? Like I always say, like, I feel bad for these kids in a way too, because, you know, we at least had like 3 days if we got in trouble to figure out a way to like get out of it or make something up. And but now it's so immediate. These guys don't even leave the party before they're in trouble, or before mom or dad are text messaging them, or like they have no window to figure things out on their own or make mistakes. And I think it circles all back to what we've been talking about this entire time of like, there's just, everything is so immediate that there's no time for them to process things on their own or figure it out on their own. They've been made so aware of certain things at such a younger age now, where their brain isn't even fully formed to kind of understand what's going on with them. And that's before they're even worried about, like, why is my shoe size changed 3 times in a year? Or how come these pants no longer fit and they did at the beginning of the school year and now it's Thanksgiving, right? Like that maturation process, that puberty stage, that middle schoolish, right where you're working, Georgia, is so important in the development, not only physically, but mentally, right? To kind of be on that same page. There's just, for as much attention as it gets now, I think there still can be more, right? In terms of, I just think, and not so much like the athletes, yes, they're one, but parents need to be educated on like this part of it too, because they just might not understand literally what their kid is going through, or like why their kid won't necessarily express the feelings that they have towards them, but they'll tell, you know, the funkle, right? They'll tell the uncle, or they'll tell the aunt, or that. Maybe they'll tell the coach, or, you know what I mean? Like there's just needs to be that, I think, comfort level, which I think for you is probably a big piece of it. And you can attest to it, like to break down some of those, like, well, why haven't you said this? Or maybe you just don't even know that you're actually, this is what you're feeling, but this is, we can put a label on it to help you. Is that something that you see, especially with, you know, the athletes that you work with?
Yeah. I know. I think a lot of what sports psychology is figuring out what you're doing when you're doing well and what you're doing when you're not doing well, and just building their awareness the first 3 weeks that I'm working.
Because I'm sure the focus is like, okay, it's always around a negative.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Right. It's never, look, you're never going to get a kid like, you know, the successful kid that goes in and it's, well, how about, what are you feeling when things are going right?
Well, and that's just society in general, right? I think like I do this really good exercise with some of my athletes where I have them.
Dave does really good with that, highlighting the positives, not just negatives, right?
Yes.
And for his age group of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, right? Like that positive flip. Now, look, I'll speak for me personally. Like I used to be that negative aspect coach, right? Like, and everything was, you know, we got to focus on the negatives, focus on the negative. Like that's more to me during the week type of process. Now, obviously with football, it's a different beast, right? Because you're building up to one thing. So that building of it, but the positive focus, the game day, dude, I'm not going to tell you anything you're doing wrong, really. Like we got to just go and we'll correct it on the film, or we'll go. But we've also tried to, and I speak for my program, the program that I'm at now, we've mimicked that in practice where, hey, I'm not going to stop practice and slow everything down to make your correction. We'll film it and we'll make the correction when we have time. Because in a game, I'm not going to be able to say timeout, let's talk for 2 minutes after every play, right?
Yes.
Mimic those situations, just more like game-like, where you can kind of talk to them and sit them down.
Yeah, I'm working with a college basketball player right now, and her coach, when they're scrimmaging at the end, she's getting really frustrated because every time there's a mistake, coach stops them. And so what we did was like, well, how is that impacting you in a game? Because she was so afraid of making a mistake, because when she made a mistake, they would always get stopped. So
right. And now it's the whole team aspect of like, oh, here we go again, right? Like we've seen that, Dave.
To just play through.
Yeah. I am not like, I feel like, I mean, I've always been that, and this was kind of how I was taught, like you're as a coach in football, at least, when you're progressing down the field and you have you're coaching a position or an area, or you're the coordinator, as we're moving down the field, and this was part of, I guess, because I was in no huddle a lot.
Yes.
We coach as you're moving. So you're instructing, if you have to walk behind him to say something to him, you say it to him, and then we're getting right back on the line and we're snapping it. So you got this like 20-second window as we're communicating the play to go and get your coaching points in right away. And you don't want to stop, like only stopping it if there's really something that cannot be corrected quickly.
Right.
For whatever reason, but it kills the flow of athletes playing. Okay. Now, when teams that huddle are a little different in football, because they may somehow magically they have more time on the clock. I never understood this. Derek, you could explain this better to me. How come the teams that huddle get a minute and a half to run a play, and the teams that don't huddle have the regular 40 seconds?
They're constantly, you're looking at the back end, and the guy's counting down and doing all this. I'll never understand it either.
I'll never understand that.
It's because the referees love when guys go slow because they don't have to move as fast.
They don't
you know
even.
What I'm saying?
I don't think they wind the clock until they actually.
Dave, think about how many guys we used to have that would set the ball with their foot because they just couldn't bend over for referee status. But look, I give those guys.
When I was a young coach, I used
hardest job in the world. I get it. You know what I mean?
Like referees about that.
Listen, talk about mental.
Why don't you wind the clock? Why do you wait to wind the clock until they're in the huddle, sitting there, which took 20 seconds?
Georgia, you can make more money off of having referees come in and talk about it. You know,
I have worked with refs, and it's very interesting. They get very in their heads because they have 50,000 people yelling at them and coaches yelling at them, and then they hesitate on pulling flags.
Do they?
There you go, Dave. Dave.
It's a big thing. I've worked with a handful of them. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why coaches, I think sometimes, like when I see a college and the pros, when you see coaches get angry or do things, I think sometimes it's staged because they're looking for a call down the line.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to get
it. Yeah. You're not going to get it initially, or you're not going to get that guy to change it. But now you're in his head so much that he's going to feel a certain type of way of like, shit, I called that pass interference. Like, I'm not calling the next one because.
Right. Well, and so just like we're talking about how athletes have to have a process to let go of mistakes, refs also need to have a process.
Right.
Mistakes. And they have graders. So after every game,
they're getting like it's the same as like, and look, they're sitting down watching film too. Like there's somebody telling them like, look, man, you did good or you did not do good, or we need to change this. And like for some of them, that's their job.
I don't believe that to be true at all. I think that's bullshit. I think that as soon as you say, so-and-so messed it up, I think the head referee calls him up and it's like, Schumann called me and said that you screwed up this and this. I watched the film. Who cares what he thinks? Go to next week. That's what I think. That's my opinion, and I am sticking to it. And the other thing that I will stick to 100% because I saw it happen with my own teams. When your team is not good, you never get a call. When your team is good, you get calls you should never get. Because I've been on both sides of it. So I can tell you, I'd be like, man, I got that. Like when I was bad, I'm like, man, they would call these things on me all the time. And then when I was good, I was like, all of a sudden I was treated differently. Oh, you guys are having a great season. Wait a minute. So I'm like, referees are a whole different episode for me. Not that they're not good guys, okay? But they're human beings. They are influenced by things that are going on around them. That goes all the way up to the NFL, who are obviously, or NBA or whatever, even though those guys are very well trained. They're very well trained, so they're going to be much better than everybody else. But you can't tell me that high school referees who are not trained at all at the higher, like at a real level. Like I know they tell me they're trained, and then I watch them make a call, and I'm like, you're clearly not trained, and you clearly never played the sport. You clearly have no idea what's going on. But there are guys that are great too, So it runs the gamut. Actually, I like the thing that the guy we had on does because he's training those guys.
Yeah, he's doing really good. Yeah. He does that. Mike D, the referee, right? So he does like he runs like I think it's what's the name of his podcast? He has a podcast.
Whistle Talk.
Whistle Talk, yeah, where he brings on referees and he'll talk about situations or just like the pressure of making a call, like has the whole runs the whole gamut when it comes to the referee world, or what I mean. I love that stuff. I think it's so pivotal because they're the ones that that could be God knows what.
I think the more need to do that stuff because it trains them. Just like in football, we have all these YouTube videos that we can watch. Well, think about if they could watch thousands of these things, you're just going to get better. I'm curious with athletes and the practice thing. What have you found that you've been able to do with them to help them improve themselves? Let's take the coaches out that they're not going to, they don't do those situations. What can they do on their own to make themselves a better game player when they know they're good in practice. They know they should play good in the game. Yeah. It's not that they're playing bad. It's that everybody sees them in practice and they're like, this guy is really good. And then they see him in the game and they go, he's good, but, and I think that like getting them out of that good, but to like, hey, he's what you're seeing in practice is what you're seeing in the game. Yeah. What can they do on their own? Because I really believe that a lot of these things has to start to be things they've got to do on their own, because you expecting other people to do it, we've kind of gone full circle. Yes, there's trainers and all these different things, but the full circle still comes back to you. It still comes back to you and what you could do to help yourself, because the coach is only around you a certain amount of time. Right. Even if they're around you 2 hours a day, there's 22 hours that you're away from them. What can they do to help themselves with that?
Yeah, a couple of things. Having consistent processes for everything. So let's try to make your process pregame and pre-practice very similar. That way, it's a comfortable thing for you. Like not much is changing come game time. Let's make your process for letting go of mistakes the exact same thing. Let's make sure you're thinking the exact same way after mistakes in practice. That way, when you show up to a game, it's not like this foreign mindset that you're trying to find. It's already habit built in. Post-practice, let's make sure you're having a process post-practice to evaluate. And let's make sure that's very similar post-games. That way, those things become comfortable for you and that you're finding your comfort in a game-like setting too.
And parents, please take note. You're a huge part of that pre and post.
Oh, yeah.
The first questions after a game, right? We get in the car. It shouldn't be a hammer down on negativity or, your coach sucks or whatever that is. And then, you know what I mean? I think parents, especially at the younger ages where that's who's driving them to the game. And there isn't much time where that kid is away from the parent for them to handle their stuff. And if that is something, maybe that's part of it, right? Like, hey, all right, we're going to get there a little earlier so you can go do your thing. I think parents need to understand to develop that at a young age, right? Even the whole like, hey, man, you have a game. Let's make sure your bag is prepared. What are we eating on game day? Like the little things like that. Hey, why? Like this should all be laid out. Now, look, it could be because me personally, how I was like, raised by a father who was extremely OCD, where like, hey, you're literally going to lay out your equipment and things like a body in your room, like Deion Sanders used to do in front of his locker. Like, hey, man, here's your underwear. And then look, here's your socks. Lay it out like a body so you'll have everything. And then we put it in a bag and then we make sure, okay, it's by the door so that there's just less going on up here on game day where the focus can be here. Right. Yeah. And I think that's something that's like I don't know, look, as a parent of two now, right? And they're young. So just like, hey, you play with something, you put it away, right? Or, hey, if you want to play with, put the lid back on the marker. Like just little things like that, I think you can put your shoes in the basket. Like just little shit like that I think matters. But I mean, look, I understand. I got it.
difficult
No, dude,
memory.
I'm just working with how I was raised, and that was part of my process. So
I
to
can't
go
wait
on
till
it,
you get
I
pushed
just have
back
to
on
do
those
it.
things. I can't,
You think I don't? I have a 2.5.
No, I know you
that's
do.
gonna
I
kick
can't
rocks.
wait till they get older. It's even more like you're like when you call me, you'd be like, this, you. Oh my god, but
that's where I think
I think
your partner, right? Like the balance of look, we play good cop, bad cop, right? With as coaches, you know what I'm saying? Like if you think my daughter at 2.5 doesn't like eat my wife alive already, like push back and all that, like whereas look at daddy with those eyes and like I'm like, sorry girl, like this ain't happening right now. Like mommy said this, and I mean, I get it, and but I think that to make them aware of that situation, right? Like it's more about awareness for me, for the player, the athlete, the child, whatever that is, understanding what they're feeling or why they're feeling it.
Great point.
I think that's just, I think it's so pivotal. Whereas the way we were coached, the way some of us were raised, like it was militant. You do it because why? I said it. Or you didn't even ask why because they didn't have the answer. Or if the answer, like now I can go and find that answer. You can't bullshit me. Because I'll go
pre and post game process is really, really important. I had to learn that myself as an athlete. And my because I ran track and was kind of involved before a race. Track actually helped me a ton, much more than football actually with that, because if you weren't loosened up,
right,
you'd run a bad race, right? So I learned that process. It's funny because
I think, Dave, that's a key point, not to cut you off, but I think that's a key point because when you link that to performance,
it was the performance.
And they're like, wait, I didn't put myself in the right mindset. I didn't warm up right. I didn't have the right shoes. Like now I lost, or
because they warm you up in football. If you think about it,
it's structured.
So when I was young, I just put my pads up. Coaches would warm me up. I didn't have to worry about it, right? But when I ran track, that was something that I learned because exactly right. Like if you didn't prepare yourself,
direct correlation for outcome in performance.
Oh yeah, and my father, who's a he's a different person now at 80-something years old. But when he was my coach in youth track and in high school, and in wrestling too, I learned it. Okay.
Yes, all the individual type sports, Dave, swimming, right? Or
it's just it's just
tennis, golf. Yeah.
So what his thing? So his thing with our track team was that we were going to be the first team at every meet, like in high school and in youth, right? We would be the first team there. Like we would be there, like no one was there. Yeah. And that was the whole thing, was like to be there before. And by the way, he's a person outside of sports is late to everything. So
which is hilarious.
It's hilarious because there is nothing he makes it to on time.
He's on your day. Look, he's got his own time. Like, look, I have a cousin that's the same way. We call it Ralphie time, right? Like he's on it. Like if you say 4, you'll see him at 5.
No, he's not coming.
You 100% know what it is, which is so funny.
Sports, it's completely different. But I learned that my son asked me literally this week for the first time. He was asking me, because I was just kind of casually telling him that like before a game in college, I would nap for like 40 minutes and all the linebackers, when I was a running back, I thought they were crazy. Like those guys didn't nap. They didn't do any of those things. But when the linebackers were all the same. We all were the same. We all would nap. We would come in, we would put our crap down, and we would take a nap, like right after. Like that was I guess that was kind of how those guys calmed themselves. But I was a lot like them. I did the same thing. So he was like, "Why do you do that? Why did you come in so early to nap?" And I started going into. He's like, "What did you do before a game?" And I'm like, "Well, I would like if our game was at 1." And let's say we had breakfast, whatever time it was in college. I can't even remember now. But let's say it was 8. We had breakfast, or 7 or whatever it was. I said I would come down. If I knew that we were going to go out to warm up at 12 o'clock, I had to be there for myself a minimum of an hour and a half to 2 hours before we were going to go out in the field. Because usually you'd have meetings at some point and stuff like that. For my nap,
for my process, for my I used to stretch for a half hour. You know, he's like, did you put your pads on before you went to the coaches meeting? I was like, I did not. I just had my lowers and my stuff. So, I like to just, we get out of our meeting. Usually we get out of our meeting, you have 5 minutes to kind of use the bathroom and you'd be out in the field. I like to just get my stuff right out of the meeting, go to the bathroom real quick, pads on, go.
Yeah.
But other guys sat in the meeting with pads on. Like, that's who they were. Like he's like, they did? I said, yeah, that like they would have to tell guys. There were some guys that were lunatics. They would have to tell guys, you cannot bring your helmet into the meeting.
Take your helmet off. Yeah.
You know, seriously, there were guys that like, that was their process, dude.
Yep.
Once they came into the locker room, it was the game to them. And they would sit there for hours like that, like crazy. Yeah. But everybody has a process. Whatever their process was, I always thought they were lunatics, but whatever their process was, I saw guys that would tape their pads up, and that was their process, you know. I had a way, my whole process was everything to help me perform, which I learned from track and wrestling. Like I used to love it when wrestlers, when I was a young kid, I didn't wrestle past 8th grade, but I was a great wrestler. And I tell this Derek all the time, the sport I was best at was wrestling. I did it so long that by the time I got to after 8th grade, I was just done with it mentally. But I had a process, like literally, I would tell my father, okay, an hour before my match, you come get me and just wake me up. And I would just nap all day in between. I did not do nothing. There were kids who would be running around. I would see a kid running around. I'm like, I hope I wrestle him. I'm going to pin him.
Yeah.
That was my mindset. I'm like, every kid that wastes energy, I'm going to pin. I was like that at like very young age. I don't know why, but I was like that at maybe my father was, you know, he's a coach. He probably drilled it into me. But then I would have, when I would get within 30 minutes of my match, I would warm up, and I had a whole thing I would do. And I would come out, and I could tell you, I had 95% of them beat before they got into the mat, because I was warming up in the area that I was going to wrestle against them way before they were. Way before they were. And I was watching everything they did. I would watch dudes. I mean, that was all part of my thing. I taught my brother to do it because my brother was really a runner, and he was a great wrestler too. But he hated wrestling. He did it only because his brother did it. But he was great, and he would be, when he was young, I said, you do this, you'll win most of your matches before you even step onto the wrestling mat, because all these kids are going to be intimidated because you look like you are an animal. You're doing push-ups, you're doing jumping jacks, you're doing your takedowns, and you're simulating it on air. You look like a psychopath to them. Okay. But if you watch the elite wrestlers now, they all do that. Every one of them do it because, and the guy they're going against does it, right? Because they're all been trained that way. Yeah. But that was what those individual sports taught me. Track taught me that. Wrestling taught me that, because every time you didn't do that, you were not ready, and you could beat most of the people from that process. And it's really, really interesting, because I think I'm thinking back to these things as we're speaking, you know, like when I was a hurdler in high school, all these kids used to do all these drills, all these these kids, they look like they could jump better than me. I was a big hurdler. I was like, 215 pounds in high school, and I was state champion hurdler. But they would do all these crazy drills. My father never taught me any of these drills. We just did the hurdling stuff, right? And he was a great hurdling coach, had like champion after champion. He was very old school though. And I would watch them do these things, and these kids would watch me, and I would just go through my process, and I didn't talk to anyone. And kids would talk to each other. They would be friends with each other. I could tell you, I didn't talk to a soul. I thought every person was my enemy. Yep. And that was how I thought about it. And I could tell you that helped me when I got to higher levels, because in high school, and Derek played a great team, but he's probably the best player on the field most of the time. I was probably the best player in the field most of the time. And if I wasn't the best player in the field, I knew who the best player was, and I was hunting him. Okay. But yes, in college, that stuff changes. I learned as a kid, it wasn't that they I did all the stuff you need to do training wise and all that stuff, but it was really the mental part of preparation that helped me for many years down the line. It was not like everyone thinks nowadays it's all about skill, and skills are important. All those things are important, right? And you do get a base as a young athlete. I do believe that, and you learn these things, and they do translate. But the mental aspect, the earlier you can learn to handle adversity, the earlier you can learn to prepare yourself, and the earlier you develop your own process for things and figuring out what fails and what succeeds, because you'll be like, oh, I did this, and you know what, that didn't work for me. Like, that didn't work for me.
And I think, Dave, that's the point.
It stays with you forever, honestly.
But that's the point. I think because we learned that at a young age, because we were allowed to struggle or fail and have to bounce back or figure out how to make that work, we're in this society now where we don't want anybody to go through any of that. No adversity. Nobody, look, like we had to deal with, not for us, and this is not being arrogant, but like not being picked first or not being picked at all, because they don't do that. And everybody gets a trophy. And we didn't get a trophy because we didn't finish first. Like, and second place didn't get anything. Like, it was,
it's good.
It builds up in you that now when, like, for guys now, like I see them when they get to me at high school, they've never been told no, or they've never had to play a role where they weren't like, they didn't just get something for just showing up, right? Like, oh, I showed up in the weight room, I should start. Like, that doesn't correlate. That's not life. Like, I should get this job, I'm at the interview. Like, doesn't work like that in real life. So the protective bubble, for all the good that we think we're doing, we're ultimately like setting them up for failure when they get into the real world, which is very unforgiving. And I understand kids are going to make mistakes and they're going to do things. And like, yes, they need some type of punishment, right? So that now they don't, when they get pulled, how many videos do you see where, younger generations get pulled over and now they're like, well, what do you mean you pulled me over? I wasn't speeding. It's like, yes, I saw, like, well, you can't arrest me. Like, yes, I can. Right? Like, that type of disconnect to reality, I think, is our fault in allowing them to only live in this super uber protective bubble that is, whether
playing out on a national stage. Okay, there are adults.
18.
There are adults now. I see. All I gotta do is put on TikTok. Okay, that run around yelling at people because they disagree with them. Running around like, and I think that I'm curious George's thoughts on this part of it, because I think what's really interesting is the mental aspect of overcoming losing. So most of these, when they're young, okay, and a lot of good athletes go through this today. They're all on teams when they're put together with other good athletes, and they very rarely lose. Okay, almost never in some cases, because they're put together handpicked wise, and they're better athletes to begin with. They haven't had to develop a process, and they're with other good athletes, and they keep winning. Now, there's a thing to be said about obviously being around other good athletes. That's absolutely beneficial, as long as they all have the right process. But there's also something to be said. I always used to say this. The quarterbacks that I always would be most concerned about playing in college, when I was always evaluating all these players, was quarterbacks whose teams won every game and won the state championship and won by like 20 points all the time. Because I don't know how they would handle when they have a guy in their face, right?
Yeah.
Because I always worried about it. And even when they were 4 or 5-star quarterbacks, I'd be like, I would have to really see a lot more on them, because they didn't struggle in high school. Now, a quarterback that took his team to the state championship, where he was the driver behind that, that's a different cat. It's why I love the Homedale guy, Derek. Yeah. Okay. He literally is the driver for that team becoming the way they are. Not that they don't have good players. They do. Obviously, they played together. But he's the driver behind that, okay? Versus I walk into a team that's already great, and I'm the quarterback of that team, and I have zero adversity. I've never been sacked. No one gets near to me. I have 5 yards to run before anyone hits me. I don't think they know how to. I worry about those guys, right?
Yes.
That was why I thought maybe Caleb Williams could be a good quarterback, because even though he played on some really good teams, I don't know why, but they never protected him. You know,
Yeah, he was prepared to, right? Like take a hit,
prepared.
pocket, yeah,
because he's been through it. Or look, we're always going to Georgia, and I think for mental aspect, I'm curious to see, like, working with multi-sport athletes, because for as much individual sports deal with certain mental things, like across the board, just being a general competitor in sports in itself is a learning experience of whatever you're dealing with, certain emotions. It's just across the board, right? For sport, every. How do you kind of, like, a football guy who's the starting quarterback might be the seventh man on a basketball team?
Love it.
Right?
Better.
So you're the star here, but now you're a role guy here. That's very difficult for adults to handle, let alone a high school athlete where you're only going to play 2 sports. Maybe, you only have 4 years of high school sports in general before, you're playing in the Sunday morning beer league for softball, or, the men's pickup league at the Y, right? Like, these times, by the time you figure it out, you're like, oh my God, I only have 10 games left my senior year. Like, does playing multiple sports, I guess is my question, does that accelerate the understanding process when it comes to mental, because you're in those different roles? Because to me, like, personally, I'll take, and it's only been kind of highlighted by college coaches coming in, and the first question they're asking, what other sports does he play? Or what other sports does she do? Right? Because they want to see that. How do they fit into a role in a different situation? Not the sport that has nothing to do with, physical, whatever stuff. It's all about that mental of, can you go from the starting quarterback or whatever you are to a role person, or coming off the bench, or maybe you're not the best player on your team.
It's very important. That's what I'm telling a lot of parents, is make sure you're putting your kids on a team where that is their jam, but they're also on a team where, again, like you're saying, Derek, they're just a role player, because it's teaching them humility, how to work for something, how to lose, how to not be the best one, how to put your team first. Is teaching them all those things. And kind of going back to what you were talking about, Dave, when I'm working with athletes in the recruiting process, they get all nervous and worried about coaches coming to watch them. And I always reassure them, like, just so you know, coaches actually like to see you make mistakes and mess up, because they want to see how you're responding to that.
Absolutely.
If you have a perfect game, they know that's not going to happen every single week. That's highly unlikely. They want to see, like, your mental aspect. And if they can recruit a kid who, one, has good abilities, but also knows how to reset and has good mental composure, you're going to beat out the other kid every single day of the week. And again, for parents who are listening here, I warn you, do not get so caught up in the stress of specializing at such a young age. Like, there's going to be all these parents and all these teams wanting you to play this, put your kid in this expensive travel team at the age of 10. They don't need it. Wait longer. Keep them in 2 sports. They will not fall behind, I promise. So stick to your guns and don't fall for the AAU sports, for the AAU youth sports, is what I'll say.
I would say, and I agree with that 100%. Unless they're like, what would you say if someone's a tennis player or a golfer, though? Like, what about those kind of kids?
Yeah.
Like, those
play harder courses.
I mean, we don't ever address that a lot, but I'm assuming that these golfers and tennis players and gymnasts are probably is that a mistake for those athletes to specialize that early?
I think having them in team sports is very important at that young age. Like, have them.
If they're going to do that, they should play. Okay.
A team sport. Yes. I work with I have a couple 10-year-olds on my caseload, and I only take the 10-year-olds on if they're mature. but they're like little phenoms, right?
There are 10-year-olds that are mature. Oh God, I gotta meet those kids.
Yeah.
I gotta meet them. I'd like to know them.
I guess
But-
that's why George is getting them though, because they're already trending
yes.
or tracking that way. And you have, if you have a parent that's already investing
Call up Drew
to the level
Rosenhaus.
that Georgia to be like, hey, I think you should be working with, like, they're also, to me, look, people might call it overkill or whatever it is, but I mean, I just think that you only have really one shot at it, and if you're not all in, like, you're gonna kind of look back and, hey, I should have, could have, maybe, whatever. So if you got it, whatever you got to do, right, to like make it, as long as that kid or that athlete, that student athlete wants that. Right.
Correct.
And that's, I think, a biggest part of this whole thing is if you're trying to drive something home or force feed something, right? It's the same way I talk to guys that are getting recruited. Like, man, why are you spending so much time on a school that just kind of knows of you? How about the school that calls you every day and message you? Like, they want you, right? So understand that kind of thing. Like, put yourself, like, the kid has to want it at the bare minimum before you can talk about any of these over the top or whatever extra things that they're going to do,
Georgia, have you seen, I don't want to piggyback on what Derek said there, because have you seen any of this stuff? And Derek, I'm certain you have. I don't know if your algorithm's exactly like mine, but you have
it's
close to
it's
it.
close. It's close, buddy.
Mr. St. Brown, it's not St. Brown,
Yes.
but it's St. Brown. Have you seen all the stuff that's gone around where he talks about, so he kind of has a different philosophy from that stuff. This is why I'm bringing it up.
Yes, he does.
So he believes that parents need to push the kids to learn how to work hard now, okay, no matter what they say. So, for example, and obviously this is much more prevalent now because of video games and stuff. They're going to play video games or whatever. They're going to be on the phone, like they're going to be on the phone with their friends. And what happened to Derek here? It's so weird, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know what
now.
happened to him. Where are you?
There we go.
Are you there?
Out,
No?
out and in. I'm here. Can you hear me?
I'll do it,
All right.
everybody.
Oh, there you go.
There
I
we
don't know.
go.
Dude,
Okay.
it's so
Whatever.
weird, Derek. It's so weird.
Whatever, brother.
Every time I see it's so weird. Anyway, so he talks. If you pull it up, I'm curious your thoughts. Maybe next month when we get together. But basically, he says, parents, you cannot be lazy. Parents are late if they're not pushing their kids. They're lazy. If their kid plays a sport, you have to get them working out. You've got to get them doing these things. You've got to push them because they don't know. Part to what Derek says, there's a limited time. And if they don't start getting habits now and start doing those things even at a young age, they're not going to have it and they're not going to be able to compete. Now, his thought process is simply this. If you want your kid to be the very best in the world, okay? If you don't care about that, if you care about, if you want your kid just to play high school sports, maybe he's good enough to play in college. You're kind of scaling basically based off of that. But his basic philosophy is parents are lazy and the kids don't succeed because parents are lazy, not because kids are lazy. So that I would say that's the if I would take a message. Now, he pushed his kids at like a really young age. I mean, they lifted from the time they were 5. 3 of them are in college. There's obviously a genetic component to their athleticism. Obviously, he was a pro bodybuilder. Mr. Universe. So, he understands certain things about training that maybe most parents don't. Mm-hmm. But his point was basically, it doesn't matter if you were Mr. Universe or not. You can push them to, and then by the time they realize they want or don't want something, if all of a sudden they want something, it's too late because they haven't done those kind of things to be the really, really best. I'm curious your thoughts on that because I go back and forth as a parent. I think there's a balance to it, but I do see what he's saying. You know what I mean? I do see what he's saying. And again, you're not going to take an athlete that's zero athleticism and make them into a pro. So, for parents that watch that, like, it doesn't happen that way. Like, he has said in the background of things, he went into bodybuilding because he didn't really have parental support, but he was a great athlete himself.
Mhm.
And his wife is I can't remember what she was, but she was she's not small. Let's put it like that. So they were going to have decent sized athletes. Okay. Genetically. Now, obviously he did things to enhance that. There's no doubt about it. I see the workouts they do now to this day. It is a little bit counterproductive to all the stuff that me and Derek watch with Tony Holler. If you were to put what the St. Browns do relative to what you would see with the modern guys like Tony Holler, it totally, like, he spits in the face of all of that. And he would probably, if you had the two of them on the podcast, there's no way they would agree.
Yeah.
No, there's no way. Because, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, I think teach your kids how to work hard and model that behavior. Okay. Right? Like, it's good for your kids to see you wake up at 5 a.m. and get your workout in before you start work and get your morning routine, set all your priorities. Like, it's really good for your kids to learn those habits. Right. And yeah, kids aren't going to ask you to be signed up for soccer at 5 years old. As a parent, you have to, like, sign them up for different things, drive them to places, and then that interest will grow. Right. If you're helping them learn how to work hard, build those habits, and then they'll carry those on with them. Right. I think, like, that hard stage for parents, and I'm not a parent yet, so you guys will have more to say about this for me, but hearing from other parents is that age where the parent knows how much potential and ability the athlete has, but they just simply aren't motivated to do it.
It's 8 to 15. It's 8 years old. I can tell you right now, because I'm in at 10, you be 11.
Yes.
8 to 15. When they turn 8, okay, up until 8, they literally do whatever the hell you tell them to do.
Exactly.
I mean, literally.
Right.
Whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, they might get tired, but you're not going to.
Well, and let them be a kid, right? Like, let them go run around and imaginary games. Yes.
What 8 to 15 becomes the window where friends become really important. Okay. Socialization for them becomes really important. Finding out who they are, who they want to be around becomes important. Okay. And obviously if they really like sports, you know what they want. But what I've kind of noticed, as I'm going through it, I have to always ask this question because I got this from one of the podcasts of a guy I actually don't really like, but I got it from him. I thought it was good. He or maybe it was one of his guests, but they said, like, basically ask your kids, like, if you want them to do something, they're resistant. Let's say they're playing Roblox. That, by the way, Derek, is if you could keep your kids away from Roblox as long as humanly possible, because it's still going to be around when you're. It is the bastion of every parent's existence.
Yeah.
Even for teenagers, by the way. I bet you your kids that are in high school play it. Okay. It's crazy because that game goes from when they're young, it could go all the way to adults. Like, adults play it. It's crazy, dude. Yeah. Anyway, when those ages come through, and I have to constantly ask, you told me that you wanted to be this.
Yes.
Is that still true?
Yes. Yes.
If they say, yeah, I got this from another person, but I because when I get pushback, that's what I immediately go to, because they're going to push back. They all are. They're like the kids who are. I'm telling you, the kids who are the best athletes, I see them push back. Okay. They go and I say, you told me that this is what you want to be. Is this still true? If they say yes, well, I say, well, I always go into, this is some of the things that are required in order to be that.
Yes.
Okay? Do you understand that? If they say yes, okay. If they usually, a lot of times it's yes, but. Okay. Yes, but okay. Well, here's how many hours you played Roblox. Here's how many hours you put into getting better. So you're telling me that you want to be a professional at Roblox. That's what you're telling me. Because if you put 4 hours in at Roblox or whatever, they might go jump from game to game, but whatever game they're playing. Okay. You told me you want to be professional at Roblox. What do you mean? I don't want to be professional at Roblox. No, you played it for 4 hours. You want to be a pro Roblox player. You know, and now if I said it to my wife, she would kill me because you know, they're like, it's part of their socialization because they don't go and play next door. Other friends are on it. Okay. So now you get into this world where they're like, this is how I'm hanging out with my friends sometimes. I get it all. Okay. But I said, you have to choose what you would rather be good at. I ask you to give me a half hour or an hour. Okay. Or you got to go to practice for an hour. Right. And if you tell me that you want to play Roblox for 4 or 5 hours, okay, then you know what? Then I'm going to give up on the dream that you told me that you have. Well, usually what happens, this I can tell you because this happens once a week with kids. I can tell you this because I'm going through it once a week. Almost immediately, they put it down and they say, "Let's go do it." Because if they really want to play the sport, they will. Okay. Now, if they don't want to play the sport, there are kids that play sports and they might do it for fun, but they really don't want to be that great at it. And that's okay. But those kids will continue to play Roblox. Okay. And I always ask that. I mean, it's once a week I ask that question because kids go right back to what everybody else does. That's what all the kids do. They're all drones now to an extent. Okay. And you got to pull them out of that drone world. That's why sports are great, by the way. Like people are like, oh, everybody plays sports. And me and Derek have talked about this a lot. And there is a lot of things that's like, it's crazy how many kids play sports. But the truth is, what else would they be doing nowadays if they weren't playing sports? They probably would be on the damn computer playing video games. They're not doing homework. They'll do homework as much as necessary.
Yeah.
Maybe the rare kid does it more. Okay. They'll do as much as necessary. And I'm only saying this because my son is actually a straight A student. So it's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's one of the best students in his class. So I can only imagine the kids who are not good students, what's going on. I can't even fathom it. Right. Like
TikTok. But that goes back to Derek's whole point is you're building awareness in them. If you do this is what's going to happen. If you choose to go practice, this is what's going to happen, right? And then ultimately, you're still leaving it up to your kid, which makes them feel empowered, builds autonomy, builds independence. But yeah, as a parent, you have to make them aware of the consequences, but ultimately, they have to kind of suffer the consequences if they don't do that.
They got to learn. You got to kind of trial by fire, right? Like they got to go through it, feel it, and be like, shit, I don't ever want to feel that again.
Oh, you skipped your practices this week and sucked in your game? Oh, well, okay, I'm sorry, but you chose that. As hard as it was for you to see, right?
Which is tough because sometimes, right, in rare occasions like that, you may, let's say, maybe you don't practice, you don't work out, and now let's say you have success, and now it's, you know what I mean? Now you're battling that, right? And Greg Olson talks about it on his podcast with his kids of like, hey, like, you know, we're going to be focused on the sport that we're in season with, right? So the worst thing for him is, hey, we go, you didn't get your swings in or you didn't throw this week for baseball. Now we play a game on Saturday and you go 3 for 3, right? And now it's okay. Now if you go 0 for 3, hey, did you get your swings in this week? No. Okay, well, there you go. Like, you got to put the work in order to be successful. I think that balancing act, but exposing that at the end of it, it's got to be you have to expose them to it so that they can understand it directly correlates. You don't do the work. It's going to be negative. Right. Yeah. And that comes with the whole process of kind of how that works. So I definitely, I agree 100%. That's kind of where it has to be.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between, the other thing I try to say is there's levels. Like you dominate against this person, okay, and you watched them in layup lines and you knew you were going to dominate them because they're just not that good. Like you dominated a team that wasn't that good, okay. You do it against a team like I watched them in layup lines. I'm using basketball example because one of the things with younger kids sports, I bet you in high school you can probably see it too, but in layup lines, if a team struggles with layups, I'm like, oh my God. Like, now occasionally a team has a really tall kid that makes up for a lot, bad layups and stuff. But which I learned I've learned that lesson of basketball. Height is still the great equalizer and everything. But but you do that against a team. They weren't good in layup lines, blah 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 blah. But when you do it against a team that is good, okay, and you play good, win or lose, and you're able to do it against a team that is good, then I know that you're starting to make progress. Okay, I can evaluate you properly.
Yeah.
But when you dominate someone that's inferior athletically, this is one of the things that I think a lot of parents get caught in this trap and try to choose. They choose sometimes this trap. Okay. We're going to play so we can just dominate people. We're going to dominate this team. We're going to dominate that team. Like when I just know for a fact when that happens, like, yes, you feel good in the short run, but it doesn't necessarily build real confidence. It's not until you do it against someone who else is good that you start to feel like
rewarding. And
absolutely.
Right. Yeah. It's like, I really worked for that. Right. And then that gets like addicting. And then that's hopefully what you want your athletes to keep fueling off of and eating off of. Right.
No doubt about it. Before we let you go, I've taken enough of your time. By the way, we want to keep you having you back, whenever you want to. Leave us with some final thoughts for today.
Good final thoughts. Let's leave it with a process after post practice, post games. Let's be evaluating objectively, not emotionally. So
that's so good.
2 things that went well, find 2 things that could have gone better. Notice I'm not wording it as 2 things that went awful, but 2 things that could have gone better. And how are you going to work on those the next day? That can be a 60-second reflection in your mind, and little habits like that lead to big results. So
should parents utilize that with their kids?
Parents can Parents can totally ask their kids that. Hey, what went well at practice day? What did you learn? What did you work on? What do you want to work on tomorrow? Great, done.
Just asking that question to show that you give a shit a little bit more than like, hey, I just picked you up, dropped you off.
You're curious. Yeah, you're curious. Be curious.
And I don't need to know all the intricacies, but just give me something. You know what I mean? Like, okay, and now we can go get a burger. Like,
yes. Right. Yeah. Be curious. That's it.
Absolutely. I'm going to leave you with one funny story.
Great.
So yesterday, my son plays in this 3v3 league on Mondays. It's great. It's, by the way, Derek, the greatest thing we've ever done in basketball. They coach themselves. The guy who's the trainer runs this league, and he kind of, as they're playing, coaches them, but they have no coaches. Okay. They play with each other. That's anyway, awesome. We come out and he wants to get something to eat. So I'm like, oh, I didn't bring my wallet, but I was just going to use my your Apple Pay or whatever.
Yeah.
So we go to this pizza place. He gets something to eat, and the guy's warming up, and it's time to go pay. Well, my phone died. I didn't bring my wallet. My phone died.
Oh, no.
And there are other people I know in there sitting and eating. Okay. So so now the guy I'm like, you got to give me a few minutes. I got to go to my car and charge my phone. I'm like, my son's going to stay here.
Yeah.
I'm not just bolting.
Right.
So my son looks at me like, what? Like, I'm staying here by myself? I said, yes. I said, so we go and I go in there and I charge my phone and it's not charging. I don't know what's going on. So now 5 minutes goes by.
Oh no.
10 minutes goes by. Finally, the phone comes on. I sprint in. I do the Apple Pay or whatever, pay for it. And I get out. As we're walking out, my phone dies. I said I literally had 15 seconds of charge. I don't know what was going on my phone, but 15 seconds of charge. And I got in there, get the Apple Pay. But the other parents were like, what is wrong with him? Like, what is this guy? Is this guy broke or something?
That's hilarious.
Let's get out of this pizza joint. Let's go. We went home. It was like, it's one of those things is like, as parents, like, you're like embarrassed, but like once you've been just dealt with so many things, you're just like, oh, I'm going to go up. But my poor son is standing there like, he's like, I thought you were just leaving me here forever. I'm like,
What do
Like,
I
there's
do?
sometimes I want to, but we're not today. Right?
Pizza.
Were you leaving me with the pizza man for him to raise me?
Yeah.
Oh, it was so funny. But anyway, I'll
awesome.
leave you guys with that. Thank you so much for coming on. It's really great, your insights, and you also get us stimulated talking on these things, which I think also helps. And we'll see you hopefully soon enough.
Yeah, we'll see you guys.
Thanks, Georgia. Next month.
Yep. Thanks for having me on.
All right,
Appreciate you
Georgia.
always. Thank you, Georgia. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. She's great.
Yeah, after we worked out like a monthly. She'll come on the second Tuesday of every month. So
Great stuff, dude. She's got good insight. She's very patient with us, which is good.
I just think it like that. What she's doing for the age levels that she's working with, that I just think it's so key because it can help. It's centered around sports, but at that age, like there's so many other things going on too, to kind of help them direct it. And it can trickle from sports to the classroom, to parenting, right? Because it's a tough age of, puberty, maturing, going back and forth, right? Just to make, it's just so hard. And with social media, everything is out there and everything is there. You know what I mean? So I think that in what she can do, it's just so, it's cool, key, and like really important that this is, you know what I mean? Like, we didn't have that stuff, or we weren't made aware of it. You know what I mean? Like, and if you were, it was because there was some type of actual issue that occurred that you needed to go and talk to somebody or deal with something, right? It wasn't just because, like, we can help you improve or get better because you're aware of this stuff. Like that mental side of it, learning how to deal with those things and or how to handle, positive things as well, right? It doesn't always have to center around negativity. Right? It can be, how do you handle success, or things are going good? Like, these are the feelings that are there. Just that awareness is so key.
I think that's a good topic for next time, handling success, because we talk a lot about overcoming things. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah.
This is an easy thing, an easier thing to talk about because most people have struggles. But maybe next time we could talk about like someone who is successful,
right?
How people are successful and how they can handle it. So teammates like them, because that's hard too. When if someone's really good, and then there's jealousy, there's things like that. There's a lot of things that can go into it, and that's really hard for a kid too, because sometimes you see kids, I think, play down a level.
Oh
when
God,
they're really good because they want other kids to shine, and then coach is upset with them, and they're like, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean? Like, so part of it sometimes is they're always in the spotlight, and sometimes they don't want to go to school and have everyone teasing them because they're always in the spotlight. Like, kids are like that,
Kids are brutal. They'll bring you down, whether it's negative or positive. They'll find something to, you know what I mean? Like, remember the guy that gets praised, or, shit, like, you're an all division guy. Now everybody, oh, you're an all division guy. You know what I mean? Like, guys just bust. Like, that's school. That's what society does. You know what I mean? Like, for everybody that praises you, there's 5 or 6 people that are going to try and, there's another million other people that are going to try and bring you down. And it could be adults too. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you deal with coaches or teachers, right? Like, you're talking about like those guys, like coaches that are like, like, I don't know. It's just wild to me that, like, as
coaches
an adult,
are among the worst with other people,
brutal.
with each other.
Absolutely. Everybody's always trying to knock somebody down. Like, how about we all just like, hey, good job.
If you happen to be brilliant in something coaching wise, right? You do something really, really well, whatever it is. And another guy struggles, and he's a coach also on the staff. And all of a sudden you're the rock star in the head coach's eye, right? That can be other coaches can bring you down on. That's when you're the head coach is probably used to people trying to bring him down or being for him or against them because they've been dealing with it as a head coach.
Yes.
And they're on top too, right? They're on top. So they're making the ultimate decisions.
Yep.
Good or bad.
They're the ones pulling the strings, you know what I mean? Like, whatever that is.
Nobody wants you to be above them as an assistant. They don't want to feel like he's the coach's, the teacher's pet, right? And they'll undermine you. Now, not all guys. The best staffs have guys that aren't like that. But there's in high
guys
school
that just know their role.
in high school, it's hard to find a lot of that, like a lot of
Extremely difficult.
coordinated staffs. And if you
Or
do
just
have
guys
that,
that are on the same staff, Dave, like the turnover. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
or-
I can only think of a handful of teams that are like that. Like Old Japan's the same staff basically forever.
absolutely.
You know, like some guys come and go, but like
But
other guys,
it's why, like, the core of it. And you see, why do they have success? Well, it's the same guys. You're speaking the same language, right? Like, even
and they
like,
also
look
pay
at
teachers more. So
Dave. Like, here's the other thing.
because they
Like when we
teach
talk to the
more.
Bixby guy, right? Like,
Right.
how there's you're talking 14 years, 12, like same shit.
And I bet you in Bixby, I mean, this is just being truthful. In Tulsa, I bet you Bixby in that area is probably higher paid teachers than other places.
And I bet you for as many
Same
people
thing with Old
that
Japan. So you're going to get better
Absolutely.
retention. With
100%.
and the coaches were paid well, by the way.
That's what-
So even if you didn't teach
absolutely.
in that school system, as
Correct.
a coach, you're less likely to leave your assistant. You know, because a lot of
Correct.
assistants don't always teach in the school. And it used to be they all did, but not anymore.
No.
But so
But yes, you're 100% right.
if
It's
you're
why,
paid more, you're going to get better guys.
and you're going to be willing to stay
Stay.
there long term.
Stay there.
Or, hey, I have an opportunity to go do this, but you know what? Like, it's
I'm
better
paid
here.
good here. I don't want to take that risk. Right. So I stay here. I think that when you're in a lower paid situation, because when people say, oh, why is this place always struggle? Well, they probably are low. Like I think about some of these pay scales.
100% correlates, brother.
100%. Now, parochial is different for one
Very.
reason, because there's glory in coaching at parochial.
Right.
That's the only difference between.
You say you're coaching it there, people view you and definitely like already look at it and say, oh, you know what I mean?
Here, he must
Oh,
be good.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
Even if
That's
he's not good.
that's a big thing. Even if he's not, it is what it is.
Right. They automatically view you as a different level because of that. Even over guys that coach at, let's say you coach at Old Japan and you're a great coach and you're a coordinator there, okay, and you won 1 million championships, but somebody was like just a regular assistant at Don Bosco, they will look at them as a higher level coach, even if they're not.
No doubt. No doubt.
Because it's just a prestige. So that's why you do get parochial guys that are willing to maybe take less sometimes. But
No
at public
doubt, brother.
school, no doubt, there's public schools that are willing to pay their guys, willing to take care of them, unless a group of guys get together that, they grew up together. When I would say like Tom's River North, they're all brothers.
Yep.
That's a unique
Yeah,
situation.
there's a family thing, like
And
something.
they're
of that
probably
nature.
paid better. Tom's River North probably plays decent, but
Definitely
Yeah.
probably better than others.
yeah. But they're all
Or
brothers.
just like, you have like your administration buys into it and they support you, right?
Right.
Or it's not like the parents support you. Like there's
Right.
a lot of some of that goes into where guys are, guys that really do their homework on taking jobs and figuring all that stuff out. They look at all of that stuff, right?
Yes.
Like I'm not just taking this because it is what it is. Like, no, I've got to what surrounds it, what goes into it, how come why haven't they been good, or things of that, like it's dating back now. It's not just like a one-off of like, oh, they were bad this year. No, like they've consistently been a non-playoff team or something of that nature. Like there's got to be a little bit more behind the scenes,
At bad places that were bad, it was very hard for me to get assistance when I was
Right.
I was
why are you going to go there?
good. Well, I learned at Pal Parkers when I was first started, I couldn't get assistance. Then, but I
Right.
was able to put together a staff. But then as we got good, I had
How do
no
you-
problem getting
Right.
assistance.
Of course.
because-
Look, and you can put it like, it might not be, it's not like coaches right now, but like Indiana, no 5 stars, no 4 stars. Now all of a sudden they win their national championship. Every 4 and 5 star wants to go to. It's on.
Great-
Indiana
great
has
analogy.
is crushing the transfer portal. The recruiting
that.
aspect of like all these guys are now on there. Like it's wild.
I wonder. This is a time will dictate this. I do wonder, once you start to add a lot of 4 and 5 stars in the mix, does that
Changes.
change the dynamic that he has?
Look,
Because
Mendoza even said it. He said, "Look, we're a bunch of misfits, but we're all here for a reason." Does that 5-star and 4-star now start to change things? And Urban Meyer said it on his podcast yesterday when I was listening to it, or whenever they did it. You coach different now with 4 and 5 stars. Like your team dynamics are different with 4 and 5 stars. Like, are those kids gonna? Because he expressed the fact that like the guys that are on Indiana now, Cignetti has squeezed every bit of talent that they have in them. Those kids he's maxed them out. Whereas, hey, he referenced like, hey, some of those Florida teams I coached, like, yeah, those guys went on and played in the NFL or whatever, but I didn't maximize every bit of everything I could have out of them in college. And yes, they were still successful. We still won, but this guy is literally maxing out everything that he has. And I think that has a lot to do with, hey, these guys weren't heavily recruited. They weren't, the big time guy of whatever. They all have a little chip on their shoulder, are a little pissed. And it's why this national championship.
Great job. Both
it's going to be really cool.
Last year and this year, he did a great job. His quarterbacks were the right guys. I think that might be the overall key too. If you got a lot of 4 and 5 stars and your quarterback is a guy like the guy he had last year.
We talked about it all the time though, like fitting those guys into the locker room. Like we saw it happen with Florida State, go from an undefeated team to shit in 1 year because the guys they brought in weren't the right guys.
You can't, yeah. When you're making a soup, you got to make sure you have all the right ingredients to make that soup taste good.
It's it, buddy.
If you put in too many ingredients, then it's just like
just a hodgepodge.
A hodgepodge of crap. If you have just enough ingredients, then it works out good, right? Too much salt, too little salt.
And that's the greatness of developing a roster, of coaching. It's like, what pieces fit this puzzle, and how do we just get everything out of every person?
Yeah, and there are linchpin players that make it,
and they are not the stars on the team.
So it depends. So like I can remember the only reason I say that is I remember the one instance, this kid Charles Simons, who came back from Bergen Catholic, he had to sit out a year. He was ineligible for a year because Bergen Catholic did something at the time that I thought was really, really shady. But he ended up being a half really shady because he was leaving them, and it was a half credit short. I'm not saying it was the coach or anything. I just think the school was like, oh,
screw this kid, he's leaving.
Yeah. So he ended up being a half credit short.
Which goes back to our adults coming at kids. Like, really?
And we didn't know. We were asking when he was in the summer, because we would have just sent him to a summer school and
go take the credit.
And then all of a sudden it was too late. It was like August, and they're like, he's a half credit short, and there was nothing you could do. And so he had to sit out a whole year. He had to sit out the whole year. Okay. And he was scout team, and he was the best athlete on the team. Okay. And he was scout team, and that dude, I can't tell you how many punts he took to the house in practice.
Right. Every time he touched it.
Like they got better because of that. That team was decent. That was St. Hilaire senior. That team was decent, but they improved a lot because he was so good, and he was on scout team, dude. He was our scout team, I think, was score more touchdowns than our regular team. And then the next year he was obviously there. And he only played 1 year with us. And that was the year that we went to the state championship. And he really was the linchpin. The kids respected him at a level that was not just but his work ethic. His work ethic was phenomenal. Phenomenal. So he had this work.
That's the separator.
Yeah, that's why he probably went to Bergen Catholic from the get-go, right? So his work ethic was phenomenal. He brought that. He was so humble. The year he couldn't play, he had so many reasons to just say, I'll see you next year. He was there
every day.
Every day. I knew that team was going to be good because that kid practiced every day, did every lifting session, would go to every showcase and combine. Like, he wanted to be good.
Awesome.
And that
rarity,
helped.
buddy.
But that is a rarity. That is rare that you're like kid who's going to be your star player. It was like that. And it was I have to say, it was
that's when you get. That's like a once in a lifetime type of player, right? That's Liam Anderson for me, right? Who's like
right.
Those are those guys that you're just like kid. Correct. Like, and forever it'll be like, hey, who's the best?
And he was only played well, he was with us for 2 years, but he only played 1 year. And I could never, like, you know, kids you have for 4 years, you have more bonds with. I never got that like elite bond, but I knew he respected me, and I respected. He knew I respected him,
Right.
and that he knew that I knew that he was really the glue for for that group because they respected him. He was the kid that went to Bergen Catholic. He was playing, by the way. I think that might have been why they were mad, maybe.
Yeah, probably because he was like they have him penciled in to be the dude.
He was playing, but he was just I don't think that whole environment he fit in per se.
Right.
So it wasn't athleticism, right? It was not ability for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hell no, dude.
So, but obviously when he came to us, it was like getting
whoa, it's like whoa.
You got a rock star, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And the reason why he came back was because his brother his older brother played for me on the teams that weren't that good. And his brother was a senior on the team. They would have played together.
That would have been so cool.
That would have been so cool, but he didn't work out that way. But his brother was a senior on that team. And his brother was a great guy, a very good athlete, but not he would always say, my younger brother's, you know, different than I am. But yeah, it is amazing. I think that component, I mean, those kind of kids, like I always wondered how that kid thought about the whole thing. He went and played in college. He went to D2 school, was on scholarship. He went to Lackawanna first, scholarship, and then or whatever money they got. He didn't pay because he didn't have money, but like he probably paid almost nothing. Then he went to Division II school on scholarship. He did football and track there actually, and he was just a great human being. You know what I mean? But like, but yeah, it's interesting when like how like I always wondered how he navigated all that stuff. Like he was so like, I don't know, like he was just so good at all the things that you would think to yourself, how is he so good at that? You know, like I'm not even talking about playing wise. Like he would deal with when you'd get on him. He would deal with everything and just dealt with it. He would deal with like getting on with other players. I mean, when we beat Cranford, Derek, I have to say, and we beat Rahway, there was no way we should have beaten those teams other than those kids believed, and they also believed in him because Rahway, we threw a ball up and Rahway had great athletes, but the one athlete that we had that could jump with the Rahway kids was him because I watched him in 8th grade basically like dunk a volleyball, you know, when he was before he went to Bergen Catholic. And I'm sure he could dunk, you know, I'm sure he could. And he went and jumped over those kids in the first round game, and he jumped over them and tipped the ball to himself and then ran in for.
It was like, oh,
the whole place, Derek. I was like, oh my God, I have an athlete as good as the best athletes. I thought to myself, that's amazing. That's amazing that we actually have a guy like that. And then he played quarterback in the semifinal game, rushed for 240 yards. 240. And you know, it was crazy.
Against a really good team.
Against the team who probably everybody thought should have been in the state championship, right?
Right.
He rushed, but literally he rushed for 240 yards. The kid Taj Huggins rushed for like 150. But he ran when he took off running, I was just like, oh my God, we're gonna win this game. This dude is him and Taj Huggins were just like unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. They were not intimidated at all. Because I sat there in the warm-up. And you notice when you coach a public school, a lot like when you see the line of the other team, and you're like, wow.
Eye test.
Like I'm looking at this line from Cranford, and Rosenmeyer is one of the great high school coaches of all time in New Jersey, and he's enormous. Have you ever met him? The coach of Cranford?
No. He's
still there, I think, or maybe he retired. But I think he was still there. He's 6'5", Derek. He's enormous. Okay. Great guy. And his line reflects him. They are always enormous. They were so enormous that I was like, are these kids actually in high school?
Right.
Now, we had enormous kids too, but they were so enormous that like our guys did not look enormous, you know? And But I was just like, it's amazing when things come together. Like you guys are in that process. It's amazing. I mean, places like Old Japan and when I was at River, those were machines. And when you're in Don Bosco, that was a machine, you know. But it's interesting. There is something when you're putting it together. Like I bet you Dunn's greatest stories when we had him on are when his team transitioned from being okay to being great with those couple of years when he said he was terrible when he first started, and then all of a sudden they got decent. And those transitions are like probably the most amazing feeling as a coach. I mean, I can't even imagine what the Indiana coach feels like. Could you imagine?
No. Do you think he's even right now? Do you think he even right now has like taken that time to be like, look where we came from?
I don't think he thinks like that, but I think if he wins it all,
the fact that all of those coaches in the Final Four were Saban's guys too, I think is just a whole different freaking podcast and typical, you know what I mean? Like, so for him to sit there on College Game Day and interview those guys and be able to go back and forth. I mean, he had Cristobal on the other day and he's like, look, there's one thing I know about all of you guys. It's like, you guys know how to get your asses chewed out, right? And that's amazing. You know what I mean? Like here you are, two guys in the, college football final, right? Both guys under Saban who were assistants and had to take shit, right? And that's part of being an assistant. And now they're in charge and now they get to give the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just
Saban interviews Cristobal. Did you see that interview?
It's amazing, bro.
He goes, "Do you want me to tell you what do you say?
Right.
Want me to tell you the good?"
He's like, "Look, you guys were sloppy. It was this. Like, what is that? Like, how can you accept penalties?" And then it's also like, "Hey, man, great job." You know what I mean? Like, I think that is just awesome. And Cristobal's like, "Hey, I was just following what you told me to do. If it was, if you get the ball back with a minute, whatever, you get after it." Like, oh well, I may have. And then Saban, I thought it was great because he's like, "Well, I may have changed my philosophy." Like, it's just, I think that back and forth, dude. I just think it's awesome, right? Because you get to see Coach Saban in a different light, right? Because he gets to, everybody always looked at him as like this, disciplinarian, this, whatever, however you perceived it.
Actually, I think College personality.
Dude, I think he's so.
He's the best guy on that show.
I love Herb Street just because I've always loved him. But I've also liked how he's kind of changed his thing. And he talked about it the other day since McAfee's been on. Like he's helped him change his whole perception of everything. And McAfee, like he takes so much shit, bro, before who he is and whatever, and how he's a different type of media guy, right? Because the old school heads, they don't like it and whatever. That he's contemplating leaving College Game Day. And Herb Street came out and said, "Look, you leave College Game Day, dude. Like I'm walking with you. Like I will leave because what you and Coach Saban have brought to it, not a rebrand of what it was, but just the difference.
It's a different energy."
It's awesome. It's what Lee Corso did when he first broke out the mascot head.
It's energy. And
it's juice. They give him shit for
stability. He's the stability.
And I love him. And I like when he calls games. I love I like listening to him on Thursday nights, dude. I like listening to him on college games, pro game, whatever it is. But they're giving McAfee shit because he does that field goal kick, right? And he just gives away money. Like, oh, you missed it. Here's another shot. And they're like, well, that's they're giving him shit. Like, dude, what are we talking about? Right. It's the old heads and journalism should be this and whatever. Things have changed, man. Like things have changed.
Things have changed so radically. And you've got to balance all of those. That is, everything's a balancing act. Like it really is a balancing act. And, and kids see it, like kids know more, like especially kids that are invested. Like I don't know all the players in the NFL. My son does. He knows all of them.
Yep.
Like the coaches, that coach with me, they'll be like, "Who's the blah, blah?" Just ask Troy. He knows. They're like, he does.
Got it down.
I'm like, he unless it's some obscure guy.
And then if he doesn't, he knows how to go find that obscure guy.
Yeah, he knows. He knows. Like, and there are other kids probably like that too. But like those are kids like when people are like, well, why do you what is it you trust in him as like a core? You know what I trust? I trust that he's watched more videos on football than any other kid I know. And because I know that he's not with me telling him, he lives on freaking the YouTube channel with football stuff. And I said, he's watched every single thing, and he plays the games like other kids do, but he watches it all. So when he tells me something, which is rare that I found, like there are other kids that might be more athletic or anything, but it's rare that I found a kid that's 10 years old that can actually tell me what would work better. I'm actually shocked by that. I've called plays and he's like, you should have ran this.
Right. Well, that's that Madden stuff. Like, there's so many things that go into that now.
Well,
with like a lot of these guys that now they're just
feel,
more aware
there's
of the
a feel.
game.
Some kids
Right.
don't have feel. Some kids just throw shit out like.
Oh yeah. But
It's a
remember, like,
feel. It's like
I always go back and think like, oh my, like, holy, like if the access to like all the sports stuff, the YouTube videos, all of that stuff that's around now was there when I was there, like, I don't know if I would have ever, like, my parents would have had to like, hey, no more screen time. You can't watch any more videos, or you can't be doing this or that, because I was just so all into the sport or sports in general, dude. Like, just, it's, hey, I'm going to watch this video and I'm going in the backyard and I'm going to shoot 53 throws, or I'm going to go through this workout that I just saw, or I'm going to like, hey, how can I do this? Or they just have access to so much more that like gets this going. Whereas we only knew what we were being coached to do, or in the town that we were in. Like the expansion of that world, I think is just, it's a good and a bad thing at the same time, because it's pushed it to now the younger ages are more accelerated in like the understanding of all the outside stuff that goes into it. You know what I mean? Like, and everything is either recognized, or you're on the list, or you're not on the list, and all that other kind of stuff, dude. Like, I just think it's wild.
Well, it's funny because other parents now, like, when you're at obviously my kid doesn't go to public school, so I don't know exactly what public school is like anymore. But so I tell you from Catholic school standpoint, but obviously he plays with public school kids. But what I have noticed about the Catholic school is that for the most part, the parents are all on the same objective. They all have like the same objective, meaning they want their kid to be the very best that they can be, whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? Some kids are going to be better at this or that, but like they want their kids to be, and they want their kids to be good students for the most part. And I think that that's really interesting, because when they're really little, like at first and second grade and third, you don't really know that, because but once they get to fifth grade, I realized fifth grade is the first year that I really am around the other parents. And I'm like, okay, they're all also trying to figure out how can they get their kid better. Their kids want to get better. They want their kids to do well in school. They taught,
like-minded, man.
Yeah, they're like-minded. Are they nice people? Most of them, yes. They're also
most of them, yes. But are ultimately
some
of them in their own?
There are not nice people too. But I'm just saying that.
But I don't think that's even like, sometimes that's not deliberate.
That's anywhere. Anywhere. I think you have just as many nice people, But I just think the like-mindedness, as far as they're all trying to figure it out, right?
Absolutely.
And they want to figure it out so their kid could have the best situation. Whereas, at some public schools, there are probably some kids that are parents are just trying to survive, right? Because their situation could be more difficult. It's not saying that one is good, better, or worse. It's just saying that it's some kids' situations, that's what's going on. Where I noticed in that was something that was noticeable being a public school kid myself, meaning I went to public school. I was trying to do certain things with my life. My parents expected certain things around me, but most of my friends, their parents expected very little of them outside of them getting a high school degree. You know what I'm saying? Some of them went to college. I knew which kids were like those kids, right? And most of them were in my, like, what you would call the advanced classes. But there were more kids that were really going to go get a job. You know what I mean? That's what they were going to, there's nothing wrong with it, but that they weren't. So if I was talking about working out to be a better football player or to be a better student, it's not that they didn't like me. It was just, we didn't connect on that, because even though we were friends, maybe we went to a party, we were like, girls and stuff, we might be like-minded, but as far as what I noticed about Catholic school is that a lot of those parents are trying to figure out, should my kid go to CBA? Should my kid go to Red Bank Catholic? Should they go to St. John Vianney? Should they go to Rainey? Should they go to a private school at high school? What should they go to that can help them be successful for themselves? Okay. And there's also something interesting about, there's something beautiful about being from your own town and being you driving together as one. There's also something beautiful about kids being from different towns and you learning from people from different environments. So that's where you get more at a Catholic school. So there's both things are really great, but they're just different, right? So it's very interesting seeing it. And like I've always been a person that like when we play other Catholic schools in basketball, we're very good. Our teams really happens to be very good. But when we play a lot of these like town travel teams, sometimes they have some studs and we're not as good. And when I'm around the town things, a lot of times the town guys don't appreciate playing a good team that might be better and that you get better from that.
They just don't understand.
The Catholic school people understood it right away. We should play that town team that's really good.
It's a different mentality.
Better than us, and we can learn how to be better because now we know what the level we got to get to is, right? Like,
absolutely.
Now we know who we're.
There's a standard, but also you're not looking like, I don't know. It's just when you're in that little town, it is 100% because look, they're in Catholic school for a reason, right? They didn't just go with whatever else it was and said, okay, this is the school they're going to, right? Like it's a different mentality of you're always going to do a little bit more because that's just what it is. Like, you know what I mean? Like you had to do some research to send them to a private school.
They appreciate not that they want to lose. No one wants to, but
they appreciate that someone else is
better,
is good. Like there's a mutual respect type of thing, right? Where look, sometimes that guy made a better call than I did. You know what I mean? Like you have to give respect. Like, hey, those guys get coached too, or that player's pretty damn good. Like guys that are so stuck on me, and us, and all that. At the same time, sometimes you just got to be like, hey. They did good too.
Battle. That's probably a bigger uphill battle, especially nowadays at public school than that's probably one of your biggest battles.
Right.
Is that, what can we do to be the best that we can be?
Correct.
Not just what you want, but what we can do to be the best that we could be. Where I realized that like they, hey, this kid may want to play this position and this kid may want to play this position.
But it's not good for the group.
Well, it's not even that it's not good for a group. We're in this. Figure out how to do the best with what you have. Right?
Right.
You're playing this. Figure out how you could be the best this you can be. Okay? And next year you might be over here. And you got to figure this out, right? And I thought that was interesting because it reminded me more about college, how college was for me. Like in college as an athlete, I felt like the overwhelming majority of the guys were trying to figure out how they could get better. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yep. They want to get better. They don't want to just stay the same.
Yeah, and guys that were losers, meaning guys that were on the team that were literally, you had great athletes that were losers sometimes, like they were just got there because they were that goddamn good, that, right? Yep. And those guys, man, if they continue to be losers, dudes would be like, yo, like, what's wrong with you? Like you're not like advancing what we're trying to do here. And you're holding us back. And if those guys didn't want to get conformed to being better, then eventually, like the coaches just weren't going to play those guys because they would realize that. And unless, there's one or two rare instances where a kid was so good. But I say in college, for the most part, it was very rare that the guy was such a freak and was a douche and was going to actually help you win. They usually didn't. If you had to play the freak that was a douche, that means your team was probably not going to be that good that year, because if you had a guy that was as good as that guy and was doing things the right way, the coach was going to play them, right? So if you had to play a douche because he was that much more athletic and they had to play a douche, it just meant that your team wasn't going to be that good. That you really like, you could tell that, you're like, man, if we have to play him, we must not be that good because we got to play this guy. You know what I mean? Because they have no other option at that position other than this a-hole, you know? So I think that's and in college you experience, it was the first time I experienced that. A like-mindedness, even though I'd been on good teams in track and stuff like that, but
Right.
that was more like we would be excited to have victory because a coach, my father, led us to that, whereas higher level thinking didn't happen until I went to college. And I noticed that at the Catholic school, a lot more like that higher level thinking. It's not just about, am I the best, right? Am I better than people right here in this moment? How can I be the best that I could be the best I could be? And if I win a championship, did I win a championship because I faced good competition, or did I win a championship just because we were better than other people? Like that, there's difference for that. And I think that's hard for people when they're young. I think parents can really help their kids with that, because ultimately you're eventually going to face someone that's better than you.
Absolutely.
And how are you going to handle that?
And how are you going to handle that?
I always thought
it's like
that
when you went from playing in town to AAU and now you're playing these other teams and it's just different. Or, hey, I was always in Butler and I went to a Del Barton camp and it was like, oh shit, like this is some legit shit. But then when you get there and you're like, oh, I could level up with this, or I can be better than most of these guys, like that adds you to a whole different level, but that exposure and dealing with all of that, or on the other end, if you go to a camp and hey, you're supposed to be the best player on your team, and now all of a sudden you go to one of these mega camps and you're nobody, that's a big thing. Now you gotta, okay, here's where I'm at, right? It's why I kind of, when those guys ask at a younger age, hey, coach, there's this going on or whatever, if it's the right fit, I tell them to go see where you're at. So now when you come back to the locker room, you can be like, okay, coach, I'm not as good as I thought. Right. And now we can work through that.
These articles. I honestly kind of I understand it. I understand. Obviously, there's businesses behind it. Obviously, I'm in business. If you post an article touting yourself and you're really not that good yet, right, you're just fooling yourself. 100%. You're just trying to trick yourself. It's good to make yourself feel good. And it's nice when and I say this all the time. Okay. When Troy was on 8U football, or maybe it was 9, maybe it was last, I don't remember. I submitted him to, because everyone's like, oh, there's these people evaluate, and I submitted him, and you could pay to get your kid evaluated. Okay. I don't remember what it was. It wasn't much. And you got evaluated. They don't necessarily give you a ranking, but they got evaluated and they ranked him. I was like, okay, it's great. It's great that they ranked him. That's nice. You know what I mean? I haven't done it since, which means he's definitely not ranked anymore. Right. But they ranked him.
Right. Because if you don't continue to pay, what do we do?
How was he ranked? He hasn't gone against any of these kids. Those kids haven't gone against him. How do I know he's better? How do I know he's worse? Yep. And so what I came away with it is it's nice. You feel good. When I showed it to him, he was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't even know, by the way. Only reason I typed his name.
Somebody had to tell you.
Yeah. I typed his name in for something, and it came up and I was like, oh, I didn't even know. Maybe they emailed it to me and I just missed it. You know what I mean? Which could happen. But I didn't even know. I didn't see it until almost a year later. I was like, oh my God, he's ranked. I'm like, I didn't. Right. But people live for that stuff. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I don't really want him in that, because
I don't want him in that world. He's not. You're going to be constantly chasing articles.
Next year, it's going to start to happen, some of these things, and I really don't I really don't want him to do that. Unless someone says to me that that there's some, I don't think this will happen anymore because of the world that we're in recruiting wise. Why would you offer an 8th grader now? I just makes no sense to me. I understood it 5 years ago, because you were recruiting high school players primarily, and if you could get ahead of a curve on a good kid, and even if you weren't going to take you get in their mind early, right? A really studied grader. You get in their mind early. he thinks about you as he gets through the process, and maybe he goes to you. I get all that. That makes sense. Now with the transfer portal, I don't even know why you would bother offering an 8th grader, because by the time he gets to be a sophomore, you may not even need that guy. And by the time he gets to be a senior again, you may not need that guy, right? So why would you offer why would you even worry about it in 8th grade? So I've gone away. I've gone opposite. I really am big on those things are good for what you said. I think you should do that stuff for competition. See where you are against other kids, see what you got to work on, see who's better than you. That's why I like the tryouts. You go against other kids. I think that's the beauty of those things. You go against other kids, you're competing again. That's the beauty of all that. You go against a kid better than you. If someone gives you an award, awesome. Someone doesn't give you an award, okay, you got to work on some things. But it's really, to me, it's no longer about recruiting. Okay.
It's not.
It's not. It's not about recruiting. 9th and 10th grade, I think it could be about recruiting depending on how good you are, but it becomes a situation where it's probably going to change again when you're a junior. So to place more of the emphasis of these events on competition. These events to me really are about competing and getting better and seeing where you stand and having a record. It's a version of rank, record, publish.
I wish more people would put the emphasis on you getting yourself better and seeing where you align and stack up, right?
No one will show up. That's why.
100%.
I honestly,
rather than like, now look, I'm okay. Look, and I'm okay with.
I think that's why they have to do it. I think that's why they have to do it.
100%
show up.
But I think as a parent to emphasize, hey, we got to go here to get you ranked.
Yes.
I think it's the wrong approach.
You want to go.
I think it's, hey, we got to go here to see where you stack up.
Correct. And yes, I understand why the preparers of the events have to say it's
because you have to market it that way, dude.
If you're not saying that you're doing some exposure thing, no one's going to show up because nobody 100%. Understands it. But as a parent, you're 100% right. If I'm a parent bringing my kid there, the only thing I'm thinking about is how did he perform? Where does he stand among his peers?
Right.
Like where?
And look, and I think to me personally, I think it's a build-up thing. Like I want the first one he goes to, I want him to not do phenomenal, but I want him to do good enough where, hey, now we go to another one with better competition. And you kind of build that like stairs. Like you don't want to send them to the best one against the best humans the first time, have him get embarrassed or whatever that is. Now it's over. You're done. You got no shot. I think you got to kind of dangle the carrot, give a little bit of taste, right? Positive, good, some bad, yes, but more positive than not, so that, hey, now we're going to go to another one where, okay, I have a little confidence in me and we did okay, right? Like, I think you really have to micromanage that in the beginning, and then you can kind of branch out and broaden it.
Does a lot of that naturally because one week you play a team that's not that good, all of a sudden then there was a kid, I couldn't believe it. I don't, obviously a lot of kids that's always all a discussion of parochial, like, do you reclass, you're good, do you not? But there was a 6th grader from who did we play? Old Bridge. Old Bridge has good basketball. A 6th grader
has a good
Middlesex. That area has good basketball. So there was a kid.
Very good.
It's considered Middlesex, right? Old Bridge.
Yeah, that's Middlesex County, I think.
There was a kid who was a 6th grader, and some people are like, oh, maybe he's older. I'm like, you know what? That's just the world we're in. So I wouldn't even look at it that way. I would just look at it like, you got to compete. Like, you're going to face this. So you got to figure out how to do it. But the kid, one of our kids went for a layup, a good little play. The kid's a good little guard. And he goes for a layup. And this kid, he tried to pin it on the backboard. He just missed, Eric. When I looked around, did anyone else see?
You're like, woo! He missed it, but he hit the backboard so hard.
He hit the backboard.
Like, fuck.
I was like,
we used to do that in warm-ups on purpose.
I was like,
to like set the tone, you know what I mean? Like
a 6th grader. So, and he was tall. He was like 5'9", but it wasn't like he was 6 feet. I mean, he was like 5'9", 5'8", 5'9".
See, that
And he
stuff
was-
used to get me like juiced.
I was like, whoa. I was like, that's awesome. So I love that. Like me personally, I love
Yeah,
that.
like if that's the kid on the other team that does that, I'm like, yo, did you just see like that's the
Well, he was on
excitement
the
that
other
comes-
team.
right? But it kind of like that mutual respect thing too. You know what I'm saying, dude? Of like,
Whoa.
I don't know, it's just different. But
It was well,
Jason,
and
the white Jason Williams, you know, the point guard, the like,
Oh, yeah,
he does a podcast, dude. Some of his things, he's in my algorithm. I love it. He was talking. He goes, buddy, if you took the 3-point line out of basketball today, kids wouldn't know how to play. Like, I thought it was a great take of him talking about like, dude, like guys just don't know how to play basketball on a level of like, go hit a three or go. He goes, like, even when I played, he goes, dude, like Jordan didn't shoot threes. Like there was no like the 3-point line was changed by Steph Curry even more so. You know what I mean? Like it was just a different brand of basketball of how like, you know, it just is what it is. And I don't know. I just thought that was like a really cool take. And I like
It is.
get it.
all 3 is like
Live or die.
a 3-point shot.
Nobody
is like,
has a mid-range game. You know what I'm
the
saying?
mid-range
Like
is way more important. Like, can't you eventually? You're more a basketball guy than me. I feel like you should start from the closest to the basket out. Like,
dude, I used to go
Get
to a
each-
shooting workout, right? Like a shooting workout, used to start under the basket, and it used to be you start under the basket, however many shots, both sides, whatever, and you just back up. Like you just literally you go to the block, then you just go all the way back on the key till that you're at the every single line. You're hitting 100 shots from each side, 100 shots from each side, and you just go back. Then when you get to the top of the key, now you just start working out and you go all the way around the 3 to the baseline. You know what I mean? And like there's like sectors that you break it down or like spots, and you take shots from all over, and you just mentally get there. But with the younger, right, they go the opposite. They start
work
from
it through.
way back here and go that way. You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, man. Like you don't even have the strength to hit the rim, but you're gonna like, and now it screws with your technique because you're not strong enough, and it's all about your form, man. And look, God rest his soul. Like we had a great girls basketball coach at Butler when I was there. He went to DePaul. He was 1,000-point scorer at DePaul. He was a phenomenal girls basketball coach. But we used to play all the time. We'd go to the weight room. We'd go downstairs. He'd have the gym open, and he would play with us. And the girls would play. Guys would play. We would go back and forth. But man, he would always talk about like your shots that go up. Like it has to be the same form, the same technique, everything, every single time, to get what it is. And it's very difficult once you get set on how your shot is to alter it. You know what I'm saying? So like some guys, their elbows are out here, right? And it was always like, no, it has to be 90 up, through, over the top, release, leave it up there. And if you can do this every single time on every shot, regardless of distance, you'll be better for it. But that came with getting the strength to move back. You can't start at a 3, and because now you're
pushing it. You're pushing it.
There's so much like you know, some guys,
it's hard to get kids to buy into it too, because
100%, because it takes time. It's a process. You're not going to hit every shot right away, and all they watch is boom, 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 like. And the game has changed.
They might know a kid that really can do it, right? They might know a kid who can drill threes like it's no tomorrow.
Right. And he's the rarity, but that's what they see. It's just like football, dude. Like all the smallest percentages are what we see the most of, and that's a problem.
So I posted I'll let you go on this. So there's a great video on wide receivers from this. I don't know where he's at now. His name is Holman. He used to be at Alabama with Saban. I don't know where he's at now.
Well, we have a guy next week coming on, his receiver guy out of Long Island, Michael Vanucci. So, and he does a lot of it. I got to remember what his link is. I think it's like LIU receiver or something like that. I found him on Instagram, and I just like some of the stuff that he was doing. And I thought he was really good, like working with the groups that he was working with, how he kind of went about it. So I shot him a message or whatever, and it was awesome. So he's going to come on, and cause we haven't had one of those, like, you know, probably since like Ross really, to come on and really like talk the intricacies of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think it'll be really good.
So what I noticed from that,
all the content is wild. You know,
I watched this video, and it's a great video. And then I had I had my AI do a deep dive on it and make a video from his video so it can
Oh, that's
explain
cool.
what he's talking about. And I posted it on YouTube. It explains. I did that also with rugby tackling. I found a really good rugby tackling explanation.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and I did. So what I'm trying to do is find some more of these.
LI Receiver Academy. Sorry.
Okay.
I just want LI
I'll check it out.
_ Academy. Yeah, it's pretty good. I thought it was good. But
What
yeah,
was
go
so
ahead. Sorry.
interesting about the receiver thing was this, because you get a lot of questions about this. I don't know if you do. I get a lot of questions about receiver stuff, and so you know, you see all this stuff with the people outside their frame, okay, way outside their frame. So the Alabama guy talked about how you could be slightly outside your frame, but you don't want to be way outside, and you got to be. You don't want to. You call it like mowing the grass. You don't
Yep.
want to be stationary when you're making your moves, because you give the
It's an opportunity.
you give the DB an opportunity to play you. You want to be able to, basically put him in a predicament, not have him have the advantage, right? So it's really interesting because you see so many of the videos now where everything is lateral, just a bunch of lateral moves or a bunch of no gain ground moves. And I see it everywhere, dude, across the country, not just here, across the country. And my mind always goes back to, are we training their knees to tear their ACL? Like, that's what my mind keeps going to. Like, now, are there exceptionally framed athletes that never happens to? Like, why are we working with stuff that works towards the freakiest genetic athletes versus the regular athlete who's trying to be the best they can be, right? Now, if that's the case, then what you're doing with the freakiest athlete is probably also putting him in a bad position. He could just do it because he's freaky. I don't know if that makes sense. He's 100%, so he could do freaky shit. So
absolutely, which is also like the rarity, kind of like you compare it to like, hey, Mahomes throws across his body and can be successful, and most guys can't do that, but he can. Right. You know what I mean?
And when they slow down, let's say, for example, Mahomes, if Mahomes doesn't revert back to his mechanics as he slows down and is not as young, he won't last as long, 100%. Right? Why Aaron Rodgers, although he doesn't look good anymore, but why Aaron Rodgers lasted so long is because his mechanics of what he does is so good. So
absolutely,
his legs can go away. Now he's just really like, your body starts to get fragile at some point, and you don't want. I just think you don't want to take hits anymore. Like, who does at 40 years old?
I mean, he tripped over his own guy last night.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I think when you get to be 41, 42, like,
I think you're okay.
Like, why do you want to take hits? I mean, why? Unless you
don't have to.
Tom Brady is the rare, just complete lunatic competitor that you really had to drag him out and say, Tom, this is it for you, dude.
It's it, buddy.
He would have played till he was 60 if he could. He would have let you
absolutely.
He's like most guys, when it starts to go away, those abilities, and you can't really do it.
They start to recognize it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then some guys don't, and then you're kind of like, he's not what he used to be. Like, I get it. It's hard to walk away, but like the ball goes flat for everybody at some point, bro.
Yeah. And you know why? Because they look at it and like, I'm still better than 80% of these guys.
100%. And they are. You are. But like, go out trending that way.
Or at least flat.
Yeah.
You don't want to. The last thing you want to do is go out on the bottom, like going down.
Hell no, that's miserable.
Working your way to the bottom.
Damn right.
But anyway. But awesome. I think it's so interesting to me, the receiver position, because it's become such a norm that there's guys that aren't gaining any, like, I don't know. You're in high school. I don't know if you have to, like,
it's so much of the dance at the line, lateral movement.
Deal with all this. Like, how do you come out of that?
You have to just drill it home, bro. You have to drill it home so much, and then
because that's what they free against you.
Dave, it's a daily it's
Your
tough.
quarterback's on his back. You're doing all this dancing.
Well, that's the other thought. You have to put it into more of that bigger picture of like, dude, while you're dancing out here, like 6 guys are coming at that guy's face and they're going to kill him. And you're never going to catch a pass. Like, or if you do catch it, you're at 1 yard, 2 yard, 3 yards rather than 22 yards, 30. You know what I mean? Because most of those guys don't have the speed to even get there. Like if they get a clean release off the ball going north and south, right? Because the speed for most guys, they're just mediocre. So what if you can only get to 10 to 15 getting directly off the line north-south right now, think about now if you have to dance, avoid, and go, you're getting a 6, 5, whatever.
You're not
by the time,
valuable.
buddy, I'm not even going to look your way. Or if I look out there and you're dancing, I'm on number 2. I'm moving. Bigger picture stuff.
They
you know
don't
what I mean?
understand, dude. And I hate the videos. Like, so when
Because
an
that's all
NFL
they
player has
see,
man-to-man, NFL player has man, so they don't understand scheme that
Nope. They don't understand anything outside of what they're supposed to be doing because
they're
that's not how
doing
they're
all
coached.
these moves, dude. And the quarterback, and then they're like, the quarterback doesn't throw me the ball. No,
Because you're not even looking because
Yeah.
you're dancing, dude.
he looks over and you're making 50 moves, and he's like, shit.
Later, gotta go.
You haven't even run the slant yet. It's a slant route.
It's a
Why do you-
3-step slant, bro, or it's a 1-step slant. You should already be like head
No,
back.
you're
with
like-
the
you're
ball,
like-
still, yes.
And your hips, and then they got their feet all the way outside. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, everything's out there. Your framework.
Are you
your
doing
arms
sumo
are all
deadlift?
over here.
What are you
It's why
doing?
I'm excited to actually talk to him because I know he works with some higher level guys and like
Oh, I
really
can't
kind
wait.
of dive into it. I've also been in touch with Ross. I'm going to try and get Ross back on so that we can kind of update with him and what's going on because he's like, obviously like Puka Nakua and all that kind of stuff. Like he continues to work with those guys, but it should be good. Tomorrow, I'm actually really excited for this one. We have Joe Gambardella, who just got named the head coach at DePaul Baseball.
At where?
DePaul.
Joe Gambardella, Joe Gambardella?
I
Or is
think
it
it's a
not?
different one. I think it's a different. I don't know the relation to it, but like
Must
he's
be
been
his
there.
son.
He's been there for a while, and he now
Oh.
just kind of got the nod to be the head coach. So I reached out to him over the weekend, and he's gonna come on. He's excited to come on, but I just think it's cool. I mean, I love switching it up with sports and whatnot, but just got named the head coach for DePaul Catholic baseball, which has a really good run. They've produced some guys, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's cool. So it'll be really cool to talk to him.
I wonder if okay. Yeah,
I don't know the relation. I don't. And I didn't even ask, you know what I mean? Like, so we'll get the back. I know he's been there, coaching there for a while, but it should be really cool.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm just typing it into ChatGPT and see if there's anything
Yeah.
on it. I'm just curious. Joe Gambardella, baseball. No, okay, yeah. ChatGPT does not know the answer to that.
Oh, there you go. Mark it down.
There we go. There we go. Does not know the answer. Does not know whether they're related or not. You know what? Actually, you know what I do like about that part of AI? At least it's like, yeah,
At least they're honest and they're like, yeah, I don't know.
I don't see the relation. I don't see a relationship there yet.
Right. They
It's
don't,
with
and they don't
No,
bullshit.
there might be, but it's not able to find it. Very
Awesome.
cool. All right.
All right, buddy.
We'll see you tomorrow, man. Have a good day. Enjoy Daddy Day.
Double Daddy Day.
You don't have to go to weight room or anything today, do you?
I can't, like, obviously I have verbatim to do whatever I want whenever I want. So I might, because like, in-laws have been around, everybody wants to come see the baby. So it's a good like breakup to get, you know what I mean? Get me out of here for a little bit and survive another than what it is. But no, dude, it's been really cool.
Cool, man. Enjoy. I'll talk
All right,
to you
buddy. I will talk to you.
Bye.
Later.